Hello and welcome back to the Radio Gamescast. As always, I'm your host Ryan. Today, I'm joined by my lovely duo of co-hosts, Alex
Hello.
and Sunburnt Wyatt. You're muted,
It's
Wyatt.
just me.
Yeah,
Oh,
there you go. You're good now. You're good now.
hi. I yelled too
Unlock
loud.
the
Hi.
palette
You
wall.
yelled too loud, and your microphone decided nope.
Well, my microphone took one look at my current appearance and decided no.
All right. Well, we're gonna talk about a few other things that people took one look at and then decided nope on.
Oh.
Not really. I think everything was pretty good
Damn.
this year. You just gave me the opportunity. Yeah, if you didn't see the title, we're talking about the Summer Game Fest series of shows. We have a Sony PlayStation State of Play to go over. We have the Summer Game Fest show proper that Jeff Keighley runs, him and his kicks, and then we have the Xbox Showcase and Ubisoft Forward. We're just going to go through them in order of the air date. So that's going to start with the State of Play, which happened before everything else. And then we'll move on through all of the shows and just talk about the stuff we have that we think is interesting, the stuff we saw that we liked, all sorts of little interesting tidbits of things to go over. So, without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and have some footage playing of what this show was like for trailers and stuff, and then we'll be talking in the corner so everyone can see a little bit more clearly what we're talking about. We're going to get started with the State of Play, which was first, and also most controversial, I would say,
Yes.
of the presentations. So, Concord's a big reason why. This is Firewalk Studios' game that they've been working on for a while that we saw a teaser for a little while back. And this trailer has shown that it is a hero shooter with some character designs that people have called that inspired. A lot of things that have just been very derivative. It seems like, obviously, nobody's played this yet, so we don't know what this actually feels like to play. But most of the stuff shown here, I would say, is nothing new. Like, Sony is often known for having really impressive new-looking things in their presentations, like Astrobot, which we'll get to in a little while. Whereas I would say this does not fit into that, and is really
Why
just
does that-
People were
why does
saying
that
the
look like
designs
a-
look inspired from, or
Well,
it's just that they're
speaking of
like
which,
not as interesting. Like, these characters aren't as grabbing as, I mean, Overwatch is the classical comparison for most hero shooters now. Valorant too, of like just really striking and unique character designs, and just the color palette here is not as big of a fan. I'm not as big of a fan of it. Alex, I'm gonna say it reminds me a lot of Crucible in Destiny. If you look at the
it
this color
does.
palette here,
I'm seeing color palette stuff. I'm seeing lots of very similar grenade abilities.
and the
Um,
reason
I was
for that
gonna
is that a
say-
lot of this team is former Bungie folks.
oh,
Making the
interesting.
team, which is probably a mark of quality. Bungie
It's
tends
a
to
mark
not
of
make a bad first-person shooter.
mark of quality. Also a mark of okay. I know to stay away from what they do that's PvP based.
Yeah, that's
Not
more
for any
my
quality
point.
reason. I just hate PvP.
Destiny PvP is an experience, and it's nothing like Halo. So I think
Yeah.
if this leans towards the Destiny PvP side, I'm probably not going to be interested.
Man, some of these weapons look like Destiny weapons too. Look at
Yeah,
that
you're
thing.
seeing
It looks
it,
like
right?
a
Like-
scout rifle. Yeah. I was gonna say the
Absolutely.
sniper rifle in the beginning looks like a Destiny.
that's
That was
straight up
Thunder
a Titan
Crash.
ability.
That was Thunder
Yeah.
Crash.
I was good. That looks like the or at least the not. Was that their super ability? Do we think in the game, or is that?
I don't think so. It didn't instantly kill, so
I was
probably
gonna, if
not.
that's just a melee, then that's probably Seismic Slam,
oh my
which is
God.
the regular melee ability version of Thunder Crash.
Now, listen. Here's the thing: if you take Crucible and actually give it the time and attention that it needs, and you don't have to worry about also having weapons that are balanced for PvE at the same time. Like Crucible has like a good, at least from when I played Crucible, right? Has like good foundations. The bones are there. It just never received the love that it really needed, or the attention that it really needed. So if you have something that's dedicated just to that, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, that's what
My-
gives me a
my-
little bit of hope, is that if this game is untethered from the PvE side of things, it might be a good way to do that style of PvP.
But that kind of stumbles into what I think is the biggest issue for me and for a lot of people, especially fans of PlayStation games. This is not what we want. from like a premier PlayStation game. Not that they can't branch out and try different things, but
I'm assuming.
it,
Well, with that being said, I'm assuming this is also only PvP. There's no PvE
Yeah,
elements
this is
to it.
PvP only. As far as I'm aware, they might have mentioned something in interviews or whatnot, but from the knowledge that I have,
Warlock.
PvP only.
it's just, especially as we're, it feels like every other developer is kind of just making live service stuff, whether they should be or shouldn't be, right? It's just like it increasingly felt like PlayStation was kind of like one of the last places really focusing on single player specifically, and story driven stuff. And it's not. I don't know. I hope it's good. I don't. I don't ever hope for bad games ever. But it's just, I look at it and I see that it's a PlayStation branded thing, and it just makes me kind of sad.
Yeah, I'll put it in the way this did not inspire a ton of confidence that it will be anything more than just another hero shooter.
And to be
and that's
fair,
not even to be like disparaging to the game, right? It's just super crowded market has, it's not as popular as it used to be. Lots of just competition everywhere. Like Valorant, Overwatch is still going strong, and then.
I mean, come on, they're going up against Star Wars Hunters. I mean, that's
that's really the death knell. Yeah. Right. God of War Ragnarok PC, great game. This is the moving on to Dynasty Warriors Origins. This is the thing that I'm looking forward to out of this, and I'm keeping in mind that the last Dynasty Warriors game that Tecmo Koei and Omega Force made was 9, which is not good. Very bad, I would say, and just like it just misses the point of what people enjoy about Dynasty Warriors. But the sheer number of enemies on screen here has me thinking that they're back to what they're good at, which is making a Dynasty Warriors game with tons and tons of stuff on screen. And this is reminded me of that.
There, at some point, everyone on screen just has to be launched into a tornado created by a spear.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So the big twist up with this one is it's about a custom character, or at least a character that is not a traditional Dynasty Warriors character. We don't know if you're going to make your own character or not, but their big pitch is that like nameless hero thing. So what people think this is going to be is basically a more fully fleshed out version of most of the games have like a sort of campaign-y mode, but it's not historical. It's just random stuff that you play through, and you like alter the events of the Three Kingdoms as your own character, which is very cool. Infinity Nikki. Anyone have things to say about Infinity Nikki? Looks pretty.
Not a thing. Besides that.
Looks pretty. I love the art style. I'm curious as to what this actually is. We didn't get a lot of info from this. So, Ballad of Antara. I do know some extra details about this game, and it's very, very interesting to me. So, this is supposedly a free-to-play game.
What?
This is a free-to-play, and I don't know if the word gacha was thrown around. I believe
a weird art style for a gacha.
What?
If so.
Yes, so it's world-bending action RPG with multiple characters. Yeah, free-to-play fantasy RPG.
What?
I'm a little concerned about what that means, because otherwise, I would say this looks really impressive.
Yeah.
So I'm in for whatever this is. I'm curious about it, but I have a lot of hesitance with.
Oh yeah, combat looks really fun in here.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to say something, and I'm not here to say that that's exactly what's happening here. But this did not give off any kind of free-to-play like vibe whatsoever, and it makes me wonder if they were trying to hide it, like intentionally hide that aspect of it. I don't know, but for something that feels very, for a trailer like this that feels very not like that at all, that's like immediately what comes to mind.
Yeah.
Right now.
Oh, I'm super curious about this. I hope it's good. Because I think there has been a couple of more recent gacha games, and I am specifically referring to Wuthering Waves, came out very recently. Terrible translation. You can't follow the story very clearly if you're playing in English, but the combat is actually super good. It's like a sort of toned down, full on action combat system, as opposed to the traditional just like spam the button type of action combat that like Genshin has. There's more going on, there's more abilities, and there's a little bit more customization. So I've liked that trend in these games. I'm curious to see if this will follow, and we'll get something a little bit more meaty in terms of action. The main concern I would have is if this is also coming to mobile, but I don't see that anywhere.
I don't feel
think
like
it
it
is.
can
I think it's
with
just a
the
console
looks of it.
game.
Well, you say that the amount of games that they're able to get on like high fidelity games that they can get on an iPhone now is pretty crazy. I'm pretty sure they had
Assassin's Creed is on there now.
Assassin's Creed is on there, like proper Assassin's Creed, not like a mobile game. I think they also ported like, was it Resident Evil 7 or something to mobile?
Oh,
I believe so. Yeah.
That's impressive.
All right. Moving on to Behemoth. This is another interesting looking game that has a lot of like almost Shadow of the Colossus mixed with something like Elder Scrolls.
You have me with that's the one bad thing. I'm just like I was so hyped for, being able to climb big things, and then I'm not physically able to.
Yeah, I mean PlayStation VR is a really good piece of hardware. And they actually recently have added the ability that you can use your PSVR 2 on PC. It's now a PC VR headset as well, which is great because it's got some of the best like technical features, though a lot of them don't work on PC. It's like the eye tracking doesn't work and a few other things. But aside from that, the headset's really comfortable. It's very nice. PS5 is powerful enough to run this stuff well. So
would you say that, like, because someone like my case, in my case, I have both a PC and I have a PS5, right? If I got one headset, right, for both PlayStation and both for PC, do you think it works? Like, it could work as just one headset that works for both, or would you still recommend, like...
I think so. I would recommend for PC, if you're not interested in PSVR games, get a Quest. Particularly the Quest 3 is extremely good. It's super portable, no wires, good controllers. It does not have all the bells and whistles that the PSVR 2 has, but it also doesn't have a cable. So it's a little bit more capable of running stuff cleanly. And it's got a ton of like good wireless options if your internet's good enough. Like I often play games wirelessly from my actual PC to my Quest without any issues with no cables, which is super impressive. Very good hardware. You do need a really good internet connection to pull that off, though. Like, I would say just gigabit-ish if you want that to work. You can cable it, though. It does also work with a cable. And at that point, if you're looking at a cable for that, too, just go with a PSVR and use it for both.
Well, it's nice that you're able to get one headset that works for both platforms.
Yes.
I'm going to have to enjoy this game vicariously through YouTube videos of people doing cool stunts.
Well, that's one thing I'm trying to do, right? Is I try not to get immediately disappointed when I see like VR games, and I know that, Alex, for you, it's not really like it's a motion sickness thing, and there's not much anyone can do about that. But it's a common thing online that I see, or just in general, I've seen it with friends of mine as well, where like the game is announced and it's immediately like a VR title, and they're like, oh well, I have no interest anymore. And I try and be like slightly more open-minded. It's like, well, VR still needs games. Like,
well,
that's the reason I have...
The single best VR game available right now is Asgard's Wrath 2, which is a Quest exclusive. It does come free with your Quest if you buy it, at least currently. I don't know if that's forever. But super good. It's like a full-length RPG thing. People are saying this might be the PSVR Asgard's Wrath type thing.
Ooh.
That is like a system seller. And it looks really good, and the current PSVR offerings are great. There's just not many of them. It's like you basically have the Horizon game, which the studio that made it got shut down. So there's not.
God, that's great.
Yeah, there's not like a second one of those on the horizon, unfortunately. And otherwise, a lot of multi-platform stuff. I guess so. Yeah. There's not a lot of multi-platform stuff on Quest or on PSVR that is better than it is on Quest, because the Quest 3 is remarkably powerful for how small it is. So, it's hard to recommend PSVR unless you really want to play one of the games that's on it. But if you do want to play those games, it's really good. Particularly Resident Evil 8 is fantastic, as is 4 Remake. is one of the best VR games you can play. Okay, moving on. Alien Rogue Incursion. And Wyatt, I could feel you salivating as this trailer was playing.
You're never supposed to be that close to a xenomorph.
It is another VR game. We don't know very much about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I'm always down for a new Aliens game. I feel like it's a untapped market or untapped potential. I think that IP
Probably a great
itself
VR
really
horror
well.
game.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if
Absolutely.
Isolation is anything to go by, you know. But I think there's a lot of you can take the Alien franchise in a lot of different genres. It's pretty malleable in that way, I'd say. And I feel like it's kind of left untapped. So I'm happy for any Alien game that tries to be a little bit different.
Yeah. All right. Next we had Marvel Rivals showing up, which this is we've known about this for a while. It's NetEase's hero shooter Marvel game, which again, another hero shooter in this presentation, but I do feel like if you're making a hero shooter and you have a strong IP, that's the best place to start. And Marvel's a really good call for this, right? There's a lot of characters to pull from.
Plenty of room for a lot of DLC characters too.
Yeah, depending on how they do it, whether or not they're going to be free or not, or what. But like, this looks interesting to me. It does look decently fun. I think they've done a good job of realizing these characters.
I like the style for the environment art.
Yeah, the environment art looks great. I'd almost say it's like a mix of Valorant and Overwatch, which I'm a fan of. It looks very good. And then
destructible environments.
There's destructible environments, which that's a mix-up for hero shooters that I'm actually excited about. So if that works really well, I think you really could have something special here, as long as the maps are built for it. Because I think with how good the finals is, it's kind of shown there's a lot of use for that.
How's the Spider-Man swinging? How does it feel? We gotta know that for this
It's going to feel like a grappling hook. You know it's just going to feel like a grappling hook.
Yeah.
Now, I'm assuming it's...
Like, that was awesome, right? Like, that's super cool.
I forgot about that.
Tethering building pieces to the roof. It is free to play, I believe.
I think we got to try this out.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm totally in to try this. They also have Galactus's daughter.
Huh.
Yeah. Funky looking game. I'm excited to see what this plays like. Okay. After that, we had Where Winds Meet, which I think this is, of not Dynasty Warriors, my actual game of the show. Which I'm going to say again in a little bit. But for right now, this is my game of the show, which is just a really cool looking Souls-like action game. I don't know if Souls-like is the right term here, actually. I don't know much else about this than what was shown here. But I think this looks really fun. I'm always a fan of these types of action games, and I think this game's got a rock-solid aesthetic. So...
I don't see enough parrying. I don't think we can call this a Sekiro-like. Not yet.
I'm seeing a lot of things that remind me of the Dark Souls 3 DLC, which was great. So I'm in for whatever this is.
Fans of Eastern-inspired like melee action games are eating well this year. There's a lot.
I picked a good time to get back into my samurai and ninja era. Oh boy.
Yeah.
God, I still need to get Rise of the Ronin.
I think that looks great. Okay, Until Dawn's getting a remake.
Yeah.
Did it?
I don't know if you could explain this.
Why a remake exists?
Yep.
No, I can't.
Okay, great.
I'm a huge Until Dawn fan. If they can make a better looking game, that's neat. But I don't think they're adding any like extra choices or like narrative stuff or new characters. Because how would you? I guess, you know, if it looks significantly better than the first, which I'll be honest, I'm not really. It looks about the same to me from memory. Look, Until Dawn's a great game. If you haven't played it, go play it. But like, I don't really don't understand why this exists, other than okay. My immediate thought is most anything that this developer has done after Until Dawn has not been received very well. So my immediate first thought is like, are they just trying to like win some good graces back by re-releasing a game that people actually liked? I don't know. I can't explain it to you, but
Yeah, it's odd to me, but I do think Until Dawn was a great game. So, if there's enough reason here to buy it again, I guess.
I guess if it's your first time playing the game.
Well, also fingers crossed. They're not taking the original off the market.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on to Path of Exile 2. This is the newest in the Path of Exile 2 trailers. Very excited for this game. They make a good ARPG, and I am excited to play the second version of it. That's pretty much it. It's an ARPG. We don't know a ton about what this is actually going to be like.
I haven't been keeping up with this one because I don't tend to keep up with ARPGs that much. But
I was gonna say, can't wait to see what this skill tree looks like.
It has a great art.
I don't think they've shown the skill tree yet. Actually, I am curious.
They do in this trailer. They do in this trailer.
They do in this trailer. I must have missed it.
I think so. Or am I thinking? I might be thinking of something else.
You might be thinking of something else. Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
They have shown how the skill gem system works now, which is very cool because PoE 1 had a skill gem problem where you would basically turn into a one-button action game by the end because you can only have one skill that is actually powered up by the amount of times it needs to be. So they changed that for this game, which I'm excited about because I think that means there'll be a lot more build diversity. But yeah, I'm super curious what this is going to look like when it launches. Silent Hill 2. So this is another one of the trailers that people are a little angry about, but I've actually heard the people that got to play this hands-on were pretty happy with it. Being a good representation of Silent Hill 2 just to a modern audience. And I think that's going to be the biggest note with this, is that you're not going to get the same look from the PS1 era, PS2 era of this early Silent Hill games, just because consoles are more powerful now.
Yeah,
and
you're going to get that
realistic look. But
I mean,
you're going to get that more up close Resident Evil 7 and 8 style, a little less pulled back.
Because I mean, the art direction for the first game was like very heavily driven just on the PS1's limitations and how much they could render. The font was a technical choice as well as an artistic.
The only thing that I had heard about this, besides seeing that this looks cool, everything's like nice and gritty and horror and horror. I was gonna say horror pilled. My the brain rot is setting in. But the only other stuff that I heard about this so far was of course the very gamer thing of people complaining that the sexual assault victim didn't look hot enough in the game.
What?
Alex?
What?
Yeah.
What?
We can't get into this conversation.
What?
It's a waste of all of our times.
Nonsense. I dislike gamers.
People.
What? What's happening?
Let's move on. Silent Hill 2. We'll see how it is when it releases.
Move on?
What do you want to say about it?
It's bad. That's it.
That's a ridiculous hill to die on. Okay, let's move on.
Another crappy thing I hear gamers say. Speaking
of dying on hills, Monster Hunter.
I mean, I guess that's technically correct.
What kind of segue is that?
Because there's hills in Monster Hunter games, and you sometimes die on them. Moving on.
Moving on.
Okay, good enough.
Monster Hunter Wilds. This is definitely a game that I'm really looking forward to. Out next year. I believe this is not a this year release, but it's looking really solid. Everything they've shown in this trailer looks great. We get our character teasers for the campaign characters, the environmental teasers, some monster showcases, which is always cool to see. And they've confirmed this time that you're going to be having a buddy a lot more. So you'll have your Palico who talks in English this time.
What?
So the Palico speaks whatever language your console is set to, presumably, but does not only speak in meows now. They have voices.
I wonder what cursed things they're going to say, or are they just going to be one of the puzzle helpers that give you the solution?
So apparently,
no, I don't really think there's puzzles.
Monster Hunter doesn't have puzzles like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I suffered through a game with you guys.
Man, I'm tempted to kick you off right now.
Make him play another Monster Hunter game.
Oh, I'll make you two for a while. Okay, let's talk about the actual game that we're looking at. Monster Hunter Wilds. What I was trying to say is that they've confirmed that you're going to have your handler, who was the woman with blonde hair in the earlier bit, and the palico around more often in this game, and they'll actually go on hunts with you when you're hunting to give you information about like the ecology and the wildlife and what's going on. The director of this game, who I'm blanking on the name of, but the same director as World, is a really, really big fan of like ecosystems and getting the environment right, which is why World had such complicated, cool ecosystems. And he said that they're pushing it even further with this one, and they want to have ways for you to get some of that information in game and not just, you know, have to kind of read through manuals or your like help text to figure that out. They also added cool things like those charging attacks and like things that will change the camera more dynamically when you pull them off, and just lots of fun looking abilities. Like the running slash on the side just looks super satisfying.
Pretty sweet.
Sounds like some great world building.
Now,
I'm very
Ryan,
excited for that.
you know I won't be playing this game if they don't have the insect glaive. Okay, that's just,
they will.
That's just how it is.
Was it?
I believe
didn't
they
they just show
decided
off
to
the
never...
insect glaive in this, or was
Did they?
I think it was a longsword, not an insect glaive. I could be wrong.
Oh, I thought someone was shooting like a rocket out of a spear-looking thing.
That was probably a gun.
Oh.
There are also guns in Monster Hunter, in case you forgot.
I keep forgetting that.
Yeah, so that was probably a bowgun. I think it was a heavy bowgun. Another big gimmick with this one is you can have two weapons. We don't know what the criteria is exactly for switching them, but there's definitely points in here where they are using multiple weapons, being pulled, I think, from the animal.
Which is an idea that I like quite a bit.
Yeah, so my guess is that when you mount up, you can change your weapon to another that you have there. Like, that's exactly what was just shown, is he stowed a weapon and then pulled one out. So I expect that's the way it works, is you can mount up and then change on the mount, so you're not actually like hot swapping, which I think is super cool. It seems it'll give you some good options, because a lot of monsters go in the air and hang out and are hard to counter with melee stuff.
Also, if we go, okay, do you see how bright this is? If we go back to the previous like area that we look at the color grading change between everything.
Yeah.
Do you see that? I wonder if that was intentional or a weird stream.
I think that was a flashback. This looks like a flashback to me. The like, not this part, but where it went all black and white for a second. I think that's like probably a story thing.
No, but even before this, like maybe it's just an environment thing, but again, it feels like the color grading is so different.
Yeah, I think it's the environment changing over time, because they're pushing with this one the seasonal changes and like daily weather changes and whatnot.
Oh, that's interesting. Very similar to what Assassin's Creed Shadow.
Yeah, so I don't think it's going to have like a full seasonal cycle, but it'll have different weathers and areas that look more vibrant and then turn darker depending on the time you're there. Looks very cool. I'm very excited for this one. And this is actually, unironically, my game of the show. Astrobot is a close second.
Dude.
Very close second.
I'm so excited. Here's the thing, okay? If you're someone who doesn't have a PS5 for whatever reason, or even so you're someone who does and did not play the Astro's Playroom Pelican game, it's amazing, and it is way better than basically an extended advertisement for the PS5 ever should be. It is so well made, it's so charming, and the fact that we're getting a dedicated platformer, I'm so excited, genuinely. This looks
and it's like your weird glider is a PS5 controller. Like it's so silly, and I'm just really in for this insanity.
And they're doing more like PlayStation crossover stuff. It's very cute.
Yeah.
There's a little Kratos, right, with his cartoony
little baby
beard.
Kratos.
Yep. So there's references they've said to I think 150 PlayStation characters and whatnot.
Oh my god!
This
thing is far too charming.
Like this just gives me the perfect mix of like, what if we made an early 2000s platformer, but with the modern technology of full Sony budget, and I think it looks great. This absolutely looks super fun.
Do you think this is still going to have the same level of like sort of tech demo-ness with all like the fun things that the PS5?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. This is going to use that controller to its maximum.
And this may be kind of sacrilege, but this has all of the charm of like a 3D Mario. You know,
I just got to shout out Parappa the Rapper showing up.
Parappa the Rapper. We got Nathan Drake. We got the Journey protagonist. Mm-hmm. Oh, good stuff.
A giant battleship PS5.
Yeah, just this all looks wonderful and charming. And they've confirmed that this is not going to be like a super long thing. I think they said they're aiming for 15 to 20 hours, if I remember correctly.
That
I mean,
feels
it's pretty
super
good
long
for a
for
3D
yeah.
Which is like
platformer.
that's mainline Mario length usually. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm super in
Wow.
for that. The fact that
Oh,
there was
we
a
got Shadow of the Colossus.
protagonist reference is insane. Yeah,
It's a great
if you don't
Deku
think this
tree.
looks fun, I think you might need to get your eyes checked.
Listen,
or play more
listen, you need
games.
to.
Very nice.
If this doesn't look fun to you, you need to laugh more and smile more in your.
Where
life,
is the
okay?
whimsy in your life?
Yeah, this just looks great to me. I'm super excited for Astrobot.
Look, they have a PS1 multi-tap. Wait, go back. They have the
Yep.
in the right side. They have the PlayStation 1 multi-tap or whatever it was
Oh
called.
my
The thing that allowed you to hook up
Mhm.
multiple controllers. What?
Truly crazy.
It's so cute. It's so cute.
Yeah, I think this looks absolutely wonderful. And it's also this year, which is great to see. So nice thing to round out this year of games. All right, Sony Showcase. I think high praise from me. It was a little bit lower key because there wasn't really a big blockbuster Sony game here. There's a lot of smaller VR stuff. I'd say Monster Hunter Wilds is the closest thing to a blockbuster, but it's also not a Sony exclusive, and is going to be also cross-play this time, which is big because I think I can finally convince Brett to play a Monster Hunter game with me, because he can play on his Xbox. So
I will say, I think the lack of like really hard-hitting IP here it was expected from me at least, because I feel like they've just released so many things.
they
in
did
the
also
past few
dedicate
years.
10 full minutes to Concord compared to the rest of the show, which maybe is
That's right. It was one of the ones where
one.
you have moments of the devs coming in and talking instead of just the trailer.
All right. Well, that was the PlayStation State of Play. Let's get into Summer Game Fest 2024. This is one of the big ones. There's a couple highlights here. We're not going to go through absolutely everything just because there was a lot in this that we don't know much about. A lot of smaller games, a lot of reveals, as usual. The first insane one was Lego Horizon Adventures.
Okay, I want to say something. I already mentioned this before we started recording.
Yep.
It was it's like seeing this game first was actually kind of hilarious because Jeff Keighley started off. It's like, oh, it's been a very tough time in the game industry, and we really like showing off like smaller independent games at this show. Da, 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 da. And then they start with Lego Horizon Zero Dawn.
I mean,
which is about
this is an insane game.
Yeah. Well, and not to say that the game looks bad at all, but I just think, given his whole spiel before, and then you go to a game that's two massively recognizable IPs being swished together was really bad timing. That being said, this looks great.
Yeah, I'm super into this. I still
really
need to build it. The Lego Horizon tall neck
Oh.
sitting over here.
Oh my lord.
That needs to be built. But yeah, I'm pretty into this. I think this is a fun looking idea. It's also on Switch, which this seems like a great platform for. Hopefully it runs well. And yeah, whatever this is, I'm kind of into it. It's just a strange thing because like Lego's only produced the one Horizon kit. So I want to know what caused this to happen. Like,
so is this made by the same devs as the other Lego games?
I don't know. I actually don't know who's developing this. Are we gonna put a dev on the screen? I don't think so.
Wow, it doesn't say.
Sony Interactive Europe, Horizon.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's just Sony. This just popped out of nowhere. Yeah. We got No More Room in Hell, which is zombie shooter that looks like a zombie shooter. This is from Torn Banner, though, who does Chivalry, which is kind of the bigger.
Notable.
Yeah.
Why does that sound familiar?
They do Chivalry.
Well, and they said this was based off of or it's like a sequel to a source mod, right?
I think so. I'm not super vetted into the history of source mods. Yeah, I think I'm just kind of over on. I guess it's 2, so yeah, it has to have been the sequel to something. I'm not super into this, just because we have a lot of these games, and a lot of them have been kind of mediocre recently, and so I think it's really going to need to be impressive.
Also, pause
Not
real
my
quick,
zombie
rewind a little bit.
Huh? Do we get to see his kicks? We do get to see
I'm going
his
to say
kicks.
his kicks are pretty sweet this time around.
Yeah, he does
like
have good kicks this time.
Eggshell white, red circle, looks pretty nice.
We always got to look for him. All right. After that, Harry Potter Quidditch Champions. It's a fun-looking Quidditch game.
Is this the reason why there was no Quidditch in the Warner Brothers Harry Potter game?
I can almost guarantee you that is not the reason. I think it's just they decided to make this game at the same time or something.
I'm gonna throw this out there. I like the environment art. Hate the character models. I don't like them.
They're very Fortnite-y, would you say?
Maybe it's just like the animation. I can't tell you what it is.
I like the style.
It is.
I don't know.
It is very start and stop. There is something about the animation. You're right there, Wyatt.
It feels not. It's choppy. Is the best way to describe it.
It feels like they were kind of going for the painterly look, but didn't quite hit it. But I'm still into the idea.
The environment art, I think they nailed it in that.
It's just weird because like Quidditch is a weird game. It's like a fundamentally broken game as a system.
There's no way
you can play the game as like great as you want, but if someone catches a little golden ball, screw you.
Yeah, it's like the golden snitch is the only thing that matters. It's a fun thing for movies and books, but I don't know if it'll hold up as an actual sports game construct. Like I think it works great as a mini game because it's pretty easy to win. Like you just play
the mystical little MacGuffin.
But I don't know. I'm interested in it. I am sure it might be pretty fun. Cuff Bust. On the other hand, looks super cool.
I saw some.
I'm very into.
This looks like another sort of Gang Beasts like type deal.
So this is a prison break game where everyone is gummy bears and gummy animals, but it looks like a really solid time. Is
it solely cooperative, or is there also like a little PvP stuff? Oh my gosh, they're blurred out in the shower. That's just hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, you see why we love this already, right? I don't know if there's PvP. I think that it's implied that there might be, but I'm not sure.
Maybe like an asymmetrical multiplayer kind of setup.
Yeah. I don't know. I think this game looks absolutely wonderful. I love how silly this is. This is from, if I remember who this dev studio is.
Just banging the head on the keyboard.
Oh my Lord.
2-Star Games is notable for doing last year or 2 years ago, actually. Now they did the train-themed horror game called Choo Choo Charles.
Oh
my God! Right. What?
Yes. So they went from that to this, and I have to say this looks like an improvement into this idea.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, I just remember finding that very funny. But yeah, I think this looks absolutely wonderful, super charming, and like a good time. All right, Star Wars Outlaws. We're going to talk more about this when we get to the Ubisoft show, so let's not talk about it now. Neva, which is, we've seen this a couple times.
Oh!
The Grease team.
I'm so into this. This looks beautiful. I'm genuinely very, very excited.
Yes. This is
I want it.
on the top of my list, I think, of the like indie stuff from this set of showcases. Very, very interested in playing this. Grease is a really good like couple of hours of a platformer that's just very emotional and fun. So I would love to see what this is like when it comes out. It looks great. Then one of our big reveals, Sid Meier's Civilization 7.
Yeah.
They actually didn't give us any gameplay here, I don't think, but I'm curious.
It's Civilization, so you're going to get a vague idea.
Is this going to be the same situation where it's like it gets, decent reviews at launch, but is only entirely worth playing after a number of the DLCs come out?
Well, so the reason that's often the case with these games is people, when the next one comes out, are comparing it to the last release with all of the DLC.
Yeah.
That's why people keep saying that, and it happens with every Civilization release and every like City Builder release and whatnot. It's always the same thing because they're comparing it to a game that has had like 10 years of dev time generally. Which like Civilization 6 has not had that much. It's had a couple of years and a few good DLCs. Civ 7, I'm interested, but there's also a lot of competition now. There's a lot of other Civ-like games, like Humanity came out recently. I'm forgetting the name of the one that's coming out soon. That is a Civ, like Aura History Untold.
Yeah, was
that
it the
also
Xbox
looks really
one?
good. Yes, that's the Xbox one, which looks great. Yeah, a lot of competition for Civ. Black Myth Wukong.
Aha!
This is, I think, our final
Hello.
trailer for this game, aside from a launch trailer. It's looking really good.
Yeah.
Hell
It's looked very
yeah.
good every time it's been shown.
We've seen a lot of this game.
It's interesting
especially over
because
the past 2 years.
the first trailer for this was not a ton to go off of because it was a hiring trailer. They were trying to show people why they should want to join the team and work on the game. And as it's gone on, they've continually shown things that are more and more impressive. And yeah, this looks really cool. I'm very into whatever's going on here. I'm excited to play this when it launches in a month or 2. It's coming out in August, I believe. So
It's
really
unreal
close.
that we're close
Let's
to
get those
getting
points.
This game.
Yes.
I always there was always a part of me that felt like this game was just never going to come out.
Yeah,
Not
I was
that I
worried
didn't
this
want
would be
it
like a
to.
movie or something instead.
Yeah, not that I didn't want it to come out. It just felt like Beyond Good and Evil 2, where we just get hints of it here and there, and it just never comes out.
I'd be incredibly game for a Journey to the West movie. Again, that's one of my favorite little like mythology bits.
Yeah. All right. Moving on, we got a couple of trailers for Asgard's Wrath and a few other things. Once Human is one of the interesting, I believe it's a survival game, unless I'm mixing it up with something else.
I think that's right. That was...
Oh, right.
That I think has had a couple of previews that people have been relatively positive on. But we don't have a lot to go off of yet. I'm interested to see how well this is received when it actually launches. Because it looks very interesting. It's got a super cool aesthetic.
The fact that it is like an open world survival game does kind of one of those.
Yeah, that's launching in July. So
type
soon.
Things. I always get a little disinterested when it's one of those like Rust style open world crafty things. But there's some really unique art direction going on here. The setting looks pretty interesting.
Cool looking
but again, it's like it takes a lot to get me interested in a survival crafting.
I just want to know why there's a swim flying plane. I need to know that. And yeah, Charlie's for Space Marine 2 and a few other things, which we're very hyped for. I think everyone here is very excited. Metaphor ReFantazio is the new Atlas. They make Persona and Shin Megami Tensei. Turn-based game, looks great. I think every time this game has been shown, Brett and I have been very excited, and it doesn't stop because it keeps looking more and more impressive as it's going on. So, yeah, I'm super excited to see what this is like when it releases. All right, Batman Arkham Shadow. Everyone got really excited for a second and then realized it's a VR game not by Rocksteady. So,
well,
I'm into the idea of this being VR.
From what I understand, I hear, I can't confirm it, but it sounds like the same voice actor who voiced Batman in Arkham Origins. So I'm wondering if they're trying to make it more kind of. I guess they're all in the same universe, but it feels more Arkham Origins than it does like any of the Rockstar games, because I think it's the same voice actor, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'll be interested in seeing what this is like, but it's not a proper salve for the wounds that Suicide Squad has caused for Batman and Arkham fans.
If this is how they wanted to make it right with fans, I think making it a VR game was the incorrect choice.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Street Fighter 6 is having a crossover with Fatal Fury. Great. Love Street Fighter, love Fatal Fury. Let's move on.
Cool.
Tears of Metal is another one of the really cool looking indies that we got shown. Like Scottish Highland fighting game, or action game.
Fun 2D art.
Great art style. Like both the 2D stuff and the 3D stuff looks fantastic.
It reminds me of a high-res like PS1 game.
Oh, that's a good town map.
Yeah, for sure.
Like a high-res PS1 game.
I love the like painted look that everything has. Like
almost
this
like
is
scribbly,
to me just super cool.
Like an intentionally scribbly kind of art style.
Yes. Ooh. Very fun. Yeah, very fun cartoony sort of VFX for the.
I'm pretty sure I just saw like roguelike style boon upgrade things. I don't know. I'm into what this game is.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, if it's like because there's a lot of enemies on screen, it's almost like if it's like a roguelike Muso type thing, that'd be pretty sweet.
That'd be really fun.
Yeah,
that'd be an interesting kind of combination.
Yep, roguelike co-op hack and slash. There's our answer to that question. Wyatt, we got to play this game.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Super excited for that.
Wish
Dragon
list
Ball
now on
Sparking
Steam. Don't
Zero.
mind if I do.
This is the new like Budokai style game coming out, which is an older series of Dragon Ball fighting games that people really liked. It's super well received. So hopefully this is really good. Moving on.
Cool.
Yeah.
Delta Force Black Hawk Down. I did not have any major takeaways from this. It looks
it looks like a military shooter.
Yep.
There's a multiplayer component and a campaign that tries to recreate scenes from Black Hawk Down, which is very bizarre.
Very particular recreation.
Yeah, very strange.
That's the game, or was there another shooter that people were up in arms about it? Doing something with 9/11.
Alex, where do you get these things from?
I get them from people being outraged about trailers. So take that with a giant handful of salt.
I have no idea if this is that game, and I think we have to say that we don't know if it is.
I do want to.
I hope not.
For a military shooter, calling your game Delta Force Hawk Ops makes it feel like a fake iOS trailer.
It's very dude bro-y, I have to say. But at the very least, the one good thing I have to say about it, besides obvious graphical fidelity, it's not another Call of Duty by name.
I mean, yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's so funny. Some of these shots, some of these moments in this reminds me of that one mission in Modern Warfare, the original Modern Warfare, where I don't remember the context. It's been so long, but it reminds me of that quite a bit. But I'm just gonna say, Delta Force Hawk Ops sounds like like an iOS game that just tries to shove in as many buzzwords as humanly possible to get you to play the game, and then it turned out to be some sort of like Clash of Clans ripoff or something. Like that's what that title implies to me.
They show you first-person action, then it ends up being a town builder.
I am always down for more FPS franchises, though. Because I think...
listen, if there's a good military shooter, I'll play it, and
Medal of Honor has vanished. And I miss my Medal of Honor.
It's gone and EA killed it.
Bunch of ads. Mecha Break. This one's interesting to me because we keep seeing this, and I still don't know what it is. Every time it's shown,
swarm missiles.
They've shown boss fights. They've shown what looks like PvP multiplayer. Brett looked this up and found out it was like a battle royale at one point.
Oh,
so I have no idea what this game is anymore. I don't think they ever confirm in their trailers what it is. I'll probably play it. I'm too much of a fiend for mechs to not.
That is some fun mech design. To me, it looks like a headache if I'm playing this for more than 15 minutes.
Yeah, this is like in the Armored Core territory of a very fast-moving mech game.
Hopefully it's good.
All right. This is an interesting block of things. So Blumhouse Studios, which is a movie producer, decided to fund a bunch of smaller indie games that are doing horror things that are just like weird, interesting little ideas for horror games. So one of them is a farming simulator with murders. It seems fun. There's a bunch of what look like low-res horror, sort of like Signalis, which I'm super into. All of these are different things, and I'm just like, this looks really cool. All of these look great.
Yeah.
So
I kind of wish these had their own, more time to kind of breathe and show off what's going on, but maybe they just don't have enough to work with for full trailers at the moment. It's hard to say.
This is the Signalis one that you were talking about?
There's a few. It just has that have this type of art style, which I think works really well for a horror game, especially on a budget that an indie game might have. So, and not all of them are like that. Some of them are more high res.
Now, I will say, Blumhouse, their model for making movies, at least, and I would assume they're doing something similar. They make horror movies that are very, very low budget, like
Cronenberg.
And then because horror movies tend to make a lot of money,
their idea is that if they make it with a small enough budget, anything will be a profit.
Yes, and that works. And listen, sometimes they come across a good movie. They produce a lot of garbage. garbage.
And I really wonder, because that attitude can't work with a game, right? Like, because you can't just throw together a game and have it work well. So I don't know. I'm in an interesting spot with these because they all look really interesting, but I have that like Blumhouse worry in the back of my mind. So,
yeah.
Hopefully they're all good. As long as we're talking about them. Power Rangers beat 'em up.
It's the exact same thing, but it's not Ninja Turtles skinned.
I mean, that's every beat 'em up. Every beat 'em up is Streets of Rage. They're all the same. It's fine. I'll continue to play them all.
I would say, is it possible to like change up that formula and I guess like have it be not have it be good, have it be like different and still engaging? I guess
then you become Yakuza. Yakuza is a direct line from beat 'em ups, and this looks rad. Like the first person rail shooter segment's super cool.
The first person Megazord is an interesting choice that looks kind of neat.
The motorcycle chase. This looks great. I don't know what you're talking about. I think this is them being original. Yeah, I'm excited for this. This looks dumb and fun, and that's a good combination for video games.
Listen, it also reminded me how badass that main theme is. Every time I hear it, I'm like, oh yeah, wait a minute, this slaps.
Yep.
Oh, this looks really cool.
Yeah,
I want to know more. I want to know more about what this is. It looks very, very interesting.
Yeah, this is one of the more interesting indies that we've been shown, and this is sort of where I hit the point where it's like I had to watch this after the fact because I was on vacation when it happened, and came back to this, and people were like complaining about the show, saying it didn't have a lot of stuff, but I feel like this was genuinely pretty impressive at a lot of moments. And
you're talking about the show overall?
Yeah, the show overall. Like I left this, I think, feeling pretty satisfied, especially because when they did ads this time around, it was generally one block of ads, and then they didn't do any more for a while.
I feel like, well, and Summer Games Fest in the past has had a lot of like bloat and a lot of fat that you can trim off of it. I feel like this is pretty lean this time.
We didn't have a bunch of weird musical performances set to trailers and like stuff like that.
They don't do a lot of their usual BS. It was pretty straightforward. It's it's longer than the other shows just because they had so many games to show off in comparison to the other shows that we saw. I don't know. Overall, I thought the show was actually quite good this year.
And Deer Boy is very intriguing. Move us along a little bit so we can get through this one. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 looks great. We're going to talk more about this when it comes out because we've already seen this game. This isn't a big reveal. But this game looks great. I'm super into everything they're showing here. I'm very excited to maybe stab a guard in the throat.
Oh.
I did. I finished the first one. It was very good.
Finished the first one.
Yeah, a lot of people had a hard time getting used to the combat, but I thought it was great. So
I can imagine that it seems very hardcore, like not entirely simmy, but in like a simmy way for the combat.
It's not as hardcore as it looks, but they did make you have to like actually train with a guardsman to learn most of the techniques, and a lot of people just didn't do that and never learned half of the combat techniques they need to play the game well. Okay, Slitterhead. This is from the Silent Hill creator.
I hate that title.
Title that makes me feel uncomfortable, and that's probably the point.
Listen, it sounds like some sort of slur.
Look at that! They're already setting up the body horror, and oh my.
Yeah, I'm just not super sure what this game is gonna play like, because they're showing this stuff of you're like moving in between bodies, which is very interesting. I'm always a fan of this when it's done in a game. I'm a huge fan of Geist on the GameCube, which most people didn't play, but is an awesome game.
It's like a 3D ghost trick.
It's very similar to the central mechanic in that absolute classic Mindjack. If anyone's ever played that absolute classic.
It's just interesting to me that they're taking the approach of like bodies are disposable and stuff. It's a cool idea. I'm interested to see how this turns out, but I think there's a lot of signs here that it might be really janky. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Again, the animation looks a little funky.
Yeah, everything looks pretty stiff, but I think the idea of this is very cool. And I hope that these action sequences work as well as they're trying to make them, because right now they look a little bit stiff, but if they do work well, I'm super into it. Throwing a blood javelin is always a fun thing.
I love the creature designs too. They look disgusting, and also a giant carcass
Oh, that's cool.
minigun.
Yeah, there's a lot
Ryan,
of cool ideas here.
What do you think the chances are that you can like fire flesh swarm missiles in this game?
I would say a solid 60%.
Oh, you can. Oh, you can possess the dog.
Of
Oh
course.
no.
Next we had Killer Bean, which is a
Yep,
game I believe based off
Okay.
of an early 2000s meme.
It is. I
Yes.
came into the Summer Games Fest just in time for this. This
Yes.
is the
Okay.
first thing I
So
saw.
I have seen. Has anyone here seen Killer Bean stuff?
Yes,
Okay.
I have.
So it's a series of animated movies, low budget animated movies that is, was it directed by? I'm trying to remember. Directed by one of the stunt coordinators on The Matrix. like I think he does. He's like the director, or he does the animation as well. I'm not entirely sure, but there's a weird amount of pedigree to this Killer Bean franchise. There's multiple movies. I've seen one of them.
It's an extensive series on YouTube.
And it's one of the greatest things I think I've ever seen in my entire
It
life.
sounds like a watch party is in order.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a time. It'd be like watching The One, I guess, as far as.
And that was one of the best things that I've ever seen. So,
yeah.
Look, if anyone listening to this has not seen the movie The One, please make it a priority because it's incredible.
Killer Bean is a great drinking.
Oh no. No, that's a game you die to alcohol poisoning by.
Yeah. All right. Well, Killer Bean looks very funny, and I don't know. I'll probably play this. It looks goofy enough. Let's move on so we're not talking about Killer Bean for an hour, because we will if left to our own devices. Cairn. So Cairn is another climbing game.
Moodier. I'm very excited.
Also a French studio. Very cool looking climbing adventure, except this time the threat of death is very real, unlike Ubisoft, where you really can't mess up that badly.
This is made by the same
and you
studio.
Don't have, unfortunately, you don't have a little blue friend with a jiggly butt who screams and makes plants grow.
This is made by the same studio that made Fury, if you've ever played
Really?
before. Yep.
Huh. Neat.
Fury was great, so I am interested in this. I always like me a good climbing game.
Oh, I see a diegetic stamina meter with the legs shaking.
Yeah, I'm very curious what this will actually be like, though, and how it will differ from Jusant. Climbing game on the mind. Wanderstop. So Wanderstop's a game about running a tea shop, and where you go and plant teas and create them, and create the leaves and whatnot, and then you make them into cool mystical teas in this cool teapot thing. But it's actually a game about a retired adventurer dealing with PTSD.
Oh, I didn't know the PTSD part. That's going to be a fun dissection.
Might have other stuff in there. There's like moments here where it goes into something else. So
made by the guy who did the Stanley Parable. So
yes, so this is made by Stanley Parable, folks.
Oh, that's a mark of quality.
And I have I know someone working on this who was a mentor at my college, so I gotta see what the deal with this is because it looks very interesting.
Yeah. I'm very into it.
All right, Unknown 9. We saw this a little while ago.
Yes.
Very briefly, and this was a little bit of a longer look at it, and I think this looks good. I think I'm into it.
I was into it the first time we saw it. Was it last year? Like late last year?
It was late last year, I think. Or early this year, one or two. But
I am also into it now. I really like this setting. This like interesting like alt World War II setting looks fascinating, and I want to know more about it.
Yeah, I think this one was really convincing to me of what this looks like, and I'm really into everything they showed here. So I'm excited to see a little bit more gameplay of this because we haven't gotten to see much. But when we do, I am interested to see, and hopefully this comes out and is good. All right, Monster Hunter Stories. We don't need to talk about because it's already out. Moving on to Enotria: The Last Song, which actually there's a demo for this out right now. This is a Souls-like, all themed around like dueling masks and stuff. And it's got a really good aesthetic. I love the aesthetic of this game.
Like, are we talking dueling masks like a Absolver's deal?
Sort of,
Or
yeah. It's got like everyone's got a mask on, and it's an important part of the game that you like take and use these masks to change form and abilities. So I'm super interested in what this is like. Haven't played the demo, so I don't know how well this controls. I've heard from a few other folks that have that the controls in the prior demo, which came out last year and was a very very early one, were not great. So hopefully the newer demo is a little bit more representative of the game.
I'm a big fan of dueling, so I'll absolutely try this out.
Yeah, and you've been turned into a Souls-like enjoyer now, so
When it comes to parrying,
I'm
specifically.
I'm the last one.
mm-hmm.
The last holdout.
Yeah, the aesthetic of this game is super cool, and like the masks being tied to weapons and stuff seems fun.
Oh,
Look forward to trying it.
big
All right,
boba.
First Descendant. So we've seen a bunch of this. This is a Warframe-like. Some people seem really into it. Some people don't like it. I don't know because I
So
haven't played
that's
it.
what it's being likened
I'm
to.
I'm
That makes
neutral.
sense.
It all looks neat, but I don't know if I have room in my heart for another like live service thing at the moment. So
Yes.
I'm left feeling mostly neutral. I will say I love all of the armor that we're seeing. The armor design is really cool. The amount of like movement options we're getting looks really neat.
But
I like a lot of art direction.
I am a little worried because with Warframe, you're sort of in your suit. Like something about this made me feel like this was a little bit more Anthem than Warframe.
I mean, yeah, Warframe's got a lot of in-world justification for the changing of warsuits and whatnot, or Warframes. Whereas this seems like you're playing a character whenever you change, which is a little bit more involved. So, I don't know. Hopefully this pulls off well. It looks interesting. All right. Moving
So Among Us
on.
TV show.
Outer Sloth new indie funding initiative looks very cool. It's from the Among Us folks, which seems great.
Oh, neat.
Sonic Shadow Generations. This was a new sort of like 2D, 3D Sonic game that I'm very into. I think this looks better than almost every Sonic game that we've seen recently.
Which is so in the fantasy critically, this is labeled as a remake, and it's not.
So
eligible.
I don't know how faithful this is to Generations, because Generation is an older game, and if it's just adding in a like Shadow version. But Generations was pretty well received when it came out. And it is like a 3D Sonic, but a 3D Sonic that, as you can see, moves very like forward always.
Yeah.
Like,
Didn't Generations it had 3D Sonic and then it had like a 2D Sonic and then you had 2D Sonic levels and 3D Sonic.
Yeah, Generations had a lot of stuff in it. Frontiers also had that, where it had 2D Sonic levels as well. But yeah, opinion has kind of turned on Frontiers as well. People are starting to kind of turn around on that game and just say it has bad aesthetics, but is actually pretty good. So I'm interested. I think Sonic deserves a comeback. Dune Awakening.
Survival crafty game.
So this entire trailer was about how they're justifying the game existing within the lore of Dune by saying that Paul Atreides has like altered an event in the past that creates the world, the canon of the game and the canon of the Dune movies, and it's very funny to me that this is what they have to do. But they obviously have to do it because like the Dune movies are out and everyone knows the story of Dune now. So you have to justify why you're different.
It is fascinating to make a game that is set on based on a series of books and now a series of movies, and they're like, okay, we're just gonna change literally every single plot detail of the movies that you've seen and just do something completely different.
At this point, just give me a game about his worm son.
Oh my god,
Alex, you've got to stop saying spoilers on the podcast.
It's not a spoiler. There's not enough context.
There's enough context there. All right,
that's pretty spoilery, Alex.
Let's move on. The Dune-ness. And yeah, I'm curious how this game is going to be received when it launches. I think it's from the Conan Exiles
survival thing, which means I just.
There's a lot of them floating around right now. All right, Battle Aces. I'm always a fan of a wacky, like, RTS action thing, and I think this game has a great aesthetic. It looks really cool. So I don't know. I'm into this. I think Battle Aces is not the best name for an RTS game, but that's, I don't know. I'm not a marketing person, so maybe I'm wrong about that. But I'm just in for an RTS, especially
I
because
heard Battle Aces and I immediately assumed dogfighting.
same.
Oh,
That's
I
there
assume
what
either
my mind.
dogfighting or Mario Tennis.
Ryan, some of these unit designs are very Advanced Wars. Some of those tanks looked very Advanced Wars.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm into it. And they've specified with this game that a big purpose of this is to try to minimize the micro that you're having to do. And I think for a lot of people, myself included, that's sort of the biggest hang up I have with RTS games. And I like RTS games a lot. I played a ton of StarCraft, but it's always my hang up with being competitive in them because I just don't have the speed to micro with
That's been my main
players
hang
that
up for like really not liking RTSs as well. So this could be a jumping on point for me.
Yeah, it's why I'm more of like a
Fingers
Total
crossed.
War fan. So hopefully this is a good fit for me because I think it totally could be. Finals is getting more content and a Kyoto map.
It
Gonna have to
looks
try that.
sick.
Yeah.
Looks really cool.
Sick.
We got to play some of this.
Absolutely.
Alan Wake 2 Night Springs DLC dropped on I think this last Sunday. It came out very soon. So
yeah, I haven't gotten around to it yet. I really want to play it. It's basically, it's not any like story content, but it's wacky what if scenarios where you're a character. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she was in both games, and she's like a huge fan of Alan Wake, and they show footage of her being instructed by Alan Wake, who his voice is coming out of one of those like wall-mounted singing fish things.
That's
Like
cool.
it was so funny. It was so funny. Specifically,
Big Mouth Bass Alan Wake.
It was really funny. Specifically, Sam Lake was like, "This allowed us to get really out there with it, as if we weren't enough already."
yeah, I'm excited because I finally caught up on my Alan Wake stuff to get into Alan Wake 2. So I'm ready to go.
Updates. Ryan, I need constant updates.
I am ready to go. I'm waiting until I need to finish either Jedi Survivor or God of War first, but then it's next on the list. So, yeah, I'm super excited to jump into this. And I believe Night Springs is the in-universe TV show, right? That Alan Wake was like a writer on or something?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, fascinating to me. Sam Lake's wacky universe is absolutely fascinating. New World is getting a thing, and the only reason I want to pause to talk about this for a second is because New World is getting a thing that turns it into more solo friendly. It's still like a big MMO style thing, but they're removing a lot of the stuff that forced you into group content to do dungeons and whatnot. They're adding some new things and a lot of stuff here that looks actually pretty interesting. So I'm really curious if when Eternum comes out, it changes opinion on this.
So will this be a game that you can play offline and you don't need it?
I don't think so. I don't think you're going to be able to play it offline, but I don't think other players are as much of a requirement anymore.
Okay. I remember it coming out and people were like kind of excited for it at first, and then there was a lot of pushback, and I never understood. I never knew why.
For New World?
Just people were not
broken.
happy.
It did not function. Like the economy was so busted because they charge you taxes to be around a city and use the facilities, but it hit the point that the taxes were more money than anyone was making. And because as people leveled up the town, the taxes would get more expensive, which meant if you started the game after the town had been leveled up, you couldn't afford anything. And so it was literally like a being poor simulator for a while.
Which, coming from Amazon Game Studio, is the funniest thing
hilarious.
I've ever heard.
That's pretty rich.
So
we'll have to do an actual dissection of New World at some point because it's fascinating to go into.
Because it actually looked like it had a lot of cool stuff going on in it from like a gameplay.
The combat's really fun. I was into the combat. It's got fun like RuneScape style grinding if you're into just like resource gathering and crafting. But it just as a game is not super satisfying as of when I played it, which was right around release. So it totally could have changed. And I mean, for being like a buy once game, I don't feel particularly offended that I didn't love it. Like I never had a bad time. It was just not my jam.
Yeah, it's nice. Right. It's not. I don't think it's subscription based at all for any part of it.
No, it's not. Dark and Darker. This is the game that got removed from Steam because of a lawsuit where I forget which people it was were suing the developers for potentially stealing code. It's back on Steam, so presumably they settled the lawsuit at some point and got that over with. Dark and Darker like exploded on Twitch last year, and a lot of people are super excited for this. I'm not a huge fan of just the super slow-paced first-person PvP-ness of this.
Well, it's an extraction game, right?
Kind
what?
of? Like, yeah, it's wild. Really cool game mode, and I'm really glad this exists for people that are into it. I find them a little too stressful to play.
I think I'd be into this if it was a purely like PvE scenario.
I think there is a way to play it purely PvE, but I'm not entirely sure.
Because I remember playing it with a friend of mine, and we were just fighting like skeletons and monsters. I was actually really into it. But then as soon as other players showed up, I immediately had a lot less fun.
It reminds me of Sea of Thieves, where like I think there's a huge market of people that are really into co-op PvE games, and then they for some reason developers tend to mix that up with people want really hardcore PvP added to the co-op PvE to make it have stakes. And I think a lot of people are fine with a low stakes co-op PvE game.
Yeah.
I think Deep Rock proves that, which we were just playing earlier today. Yeah, Kunitsugami, this is just another small trailer of it. Looks great. I'm very into Kunitsugami. Excited for whenever it comes out.
That's the
Hyper
really...
Light Breaker.
Oh. That was the really kaleidoscope-looking one, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's coming out this year,
co-op.
Right?
It was at some point. I think late summer. Early access release, not full release.
Looks very interesting. Very different from Hyper Light Drifter. I almost wonder if calling it Hyper Light at all was maybe not the smartest decision in the world.
It is giving me kind of Risk of Rain feelings, though, and I think that's a good thing. Like, Risk of Rain 2 is great. So,
in the visuals, the combat...
Combat makes me, or kind of reminds me of that. And, like, the different playable heroes, that kind of thing.
Moving on, Party Animals is getting some fresh new content. This game's great. I had a great time playing this. Coworkers and I played this for a long time for a like fun break game, and it was really cool. And it's getting some new stuff, which seems very exciting. Moving on to Tim Robinson giving a trailer for M Corp, which is the Skate villain corporation for EA Skate.
Yeah. I feel like this whole MCOM thing was just to have Tim Robinson there. That's it.
Honestly, that's okay. If we're gonna get our
we got a little bit of parkour going on as well. That's fun to see.
I think this looks good. This is giving me a little bit more. It's kind of solved a little bit of my fears about this game because Skate is free to play. They've said, and that's concerning. Being that
always
all the others were not that. And especially because it's EA, which doesn't have a great history with games like that. I hope it's good, because if it is, I'll play a lot of it. Pal World is getting a Sakurajima update, which has oil rigs for you to raid with your pals. Moving on. Valorant's on consoles.
Moving on.
Yep.
Moving on.
We had a bunch of stuff that was just like ad style things, and then another Monster Hunter Wild showcase.
Another one.
And then we ended on Phantom Blade Zero, which I believe has now been confirmed to not be purely a Souls-like a lot of people thought, and is actually more of just an action game. Which, yeah, I'm very into. This looks great.
Looks fun.
These animations are insane.
This is some of the coolest animation for an action game
I see some fun parrying possibilities here.
Absolutely.
Some very fun-looking enemy designs too.
The sword heels are very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, this looks so cool.
It just looks very smooth.
Again, Eastern-inspired melee action games. They are eaten well this year.
Yep. All right, moving on to the Xbox Game Showcase, which is a lot to talk about here. So we're gonna keep moving. Call of Duty Black Ops 6. People are, I guess, excited for this. I know very little about Call of Duty. Let's move on from Call of Duty.
And you know what I think.
Looks like a Black Ops game.
Yep. It's a good way to put it. Doom: The Dark Ages. This looks really cool.
Looks Rad! I am so excited.
This is like a crazy Doom prequel. You have a shield that has like an awesome throwing thing. There's orbital lasers.
There's a gun that crushes up a skull and shoots the bits of skull at people.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I'm honestly really excited for what the shield does in gameplay because I think it's a super fun idea to have this like shield theme for a like bullet hell.
You get a giant mech that you can control.
And you know how that makes me feel, Wyatt.
Oh my god!
Everything they showed there looks great. I'm very.
I love the techno middle age. Everything about this.
The skull shrapnel gun is probably my like mouth salivating. Oh, this is gonna be fun.
I want everything. I want it all.
All right.
Can you show me?
Moving on. State of Decay 3 got another CG trailer. State of Decay 2 is pretty fun, so I'm curious about this game, but I need to see some gameplay before I'm really bought into it.
Yes. Here we go.
Let's take a couple moments to talk about Dragon Age Veilguard. And I want to specify that we're not talking about the game itself right now. We're talking about this trailer. Because the game itself, we just recently got like a 20-minute gameplay showcase, and I think everyone thinks it looks pretty good. So remove all of our comments from this, from the thought of the game itself, and just think about how much this looks like a hero shooter trailer.
Well, because I watched this, and then I think I watched this after this showcase came out, and I think Ryan was watching it with me. I was watching this, I was like, yes, this feels like a hero shooter. This feels very strange. The art style, the character designs look a little bit strange for a Dragon Age game. However, this got a lot of pushback. I understand why, but at the same time, I feel like at the time this gave us so little information on the actual game that I wasn't as immediately upset as everyone else was.
Yeah, but you gotta admit, if they had not followed this up with a gameplay trailer a couple days later, this would have been concerning. Like,
yes. No, I totally understand that. I will say, I think what helps with how goofy everything looks is that it's from Varric and Harding's point of view, kind of, and they're inherently kind of goofy, not goofy, but they're very quippy characters, and so in my mind, I could kind of excuse the presentation of this because it's especially from Varric's point of view. It's a very quippy, like I said, very quippy character. So I think that kind of helps.
The tone of this just feels weird to me for a Dragon Age trailer because it feels almost to me like a D&D movie trailer in a weird way. Like, I don't even think there's a video game I can equate it to. It feels like the D&D movie where it's a bunch of fan service and like hype music. And not to say that I dislike that movie, but it's definitely the trailers for it were that type of trailer. And Veilguard also got this for some reason.
Especially, it's kind of ballsy. I'm going to say this. It's kind of a bad move to release a trailer like this after your last game being Anthem, which one of the biggest criticisms towards Anthem is that it was BioWare making a game that nobody wanted BioWare to make. So to have a trailer that is so not representative of Dragon Age in a lot of ways, I feel like was such a incorrect decision, because this is supposed to be like, we're making a Dragon Age game where we're kind of going back to what fans want us to make, which is single player RPGs. This is not what you should be showing. This kind of trailer is not what you should be showing.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that entirely.
Yeah, it's totally weird. Moving on to Starfield showing off Shattered Space. I want to preface this by saying the interesting bit of information that we have here is that Shattered Space adds one planet. So most of this is presumably set around the same area, which is a thing that we constantly talked about with Starfield's initial release, is it just felt too spread out. Like there's all the interesting stuff.
Fewer loading screens with this.
Yeah, lots of loading screens, lots of spaced out stuff, and just very low density of things to do.
For anyone who may be watching this and doesn't have the context as to our thoughts on Starfield, I think all three of us, to varying degrees, do like the game. So I, at least from what I remember from our Games Club episode, so I am excited for more Starfield, especially if some of their.
I'm excited for it to be better, which I hope it will be.
Yeah, and I'm also excited because it seems like the last few updates have been very like quality of life type stuff, which is nice, and hopefully this expansion brings more of that to the table.
Yeah.
Really love the visuals.
Was
though.
that
This
was
looks
that the
really
player
cool.
character riding on an animal? Right then?
I don't know. It could have been. I don't think it was. I think we just talked about land vehicles a little bit.
For it. Right there.
No, that there's no one on the back of that. It was just.
Oh, it was just a really big head.
It just had a spine, like a really bumpy. Yeah.
But yeah, all these environments look great. Like our biggest issue with Starfield was a lot of that they locked a lot of the interesting stuff behind New Game Plus for some reason, and had like this attitude that you needed to hit that, which is just strange. Not super fitting for Bethesda, the way that people play a Bethesda game.
Shadow dropping a new content update, which was pretty nice too.
And the creation kit, so modding tools are out now, which is very exciting to see what people are going to do with that.
Although people are pretty angry at how expensive some of the mods for Creation Club stuff are, because
they're pretty pricey.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, Fallout 76 got Skyline Valley, new map that you can look at.
Cool, fun.
Yeah.
Fallout's a good TV show. Go watch it. Moving on.
All right, moving on to my game of the show, which is Expedition 33. I thought this looked amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Super interesting looking. This is a turn-based RPG from... Oh, their name was just up here. Just missed the studio name. From... Come on, give it to me. Give me the name. Sandfall Interactive. Lesser known. Very, very cool looking. The whole theme here is that like there's a painter that paints on that pillar once a year, and every time she paints the number, everyone of that age dies. So it's basically a ticking clock until everyone's dead. I'm fascinated by this. I think this is a very interesting concept. I think it's a good way to get agency or urgency into a story and have it be interesting, because I think that main character looks like he's probably right around 32 and might be dead if it goes for another year. And I think that's super cool. So I'm excited to see what this game is like. And I think it just looks gorgeous. The combat looks really good. The music was excellent.
Mm-hmm. Really fun looking UI too.
Super good. Very excited to see how this actually is when it comes out. All right. Any other thoughts on Expedition 33? Nope.
No.
Moving on to South of Midnight.
Right.
Which we got a little bit more of an extended look at. Also, Wyatt, just for your sake, I will mention your camera is stuck for the moment.
Oh.
Oh
no.
Maybe just give
is it on a really
quick
unflattering bad?
Kind of.
Oh,
maybe a little.
Oh no.
Oh, we have a giant wise catfish.
The wisest.
They're an invasive. They're an invasive species. You should eat them given the chance. They are best fried.
Not that catfish though. He's a friendly catfish. Yeah, they showed a little bit more gameplay of this. We got to see a first look at combat, and we also see that they're sticking with the low frame rate animation for the character models in combat, which is an interesting choice.
It really brings to mind that sort of claymation-y feel where, it's a very Coraline, Paranorman type deal going on.
I think I'm into it. I've definitely seen a lot of people say that they're not super into it.
Fingers crossed, at least for like people with like my problem, where it doesn't cause a motion sickness type thing with the frame rate sort of mismatch at all.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I'm very into whatever this has got going on. And yeah,
Hello?
I want to see more of this because I think what we actually have seen so far has not been a ton. There you go. You're good now, Wyatt.
Very good.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Any thoughts on South of
Thank
Midnight
God.
before we move on from it, Wyatt?
Really like the setting. I feel like it's something that we don't see that often. I worry that the low frame rate for the character is going to get very sickening after a while for an action game.
It is exactly what I said. Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Compulsion tends to make very interesting worlds. So I'm interested to see how this is going to play out. I need more of the combat before I have like an impression of it. I feel like because we fought one monster for like 2 minutes, and then
yeah, it was like a tiny bit
like 30
floaty,
seconds.
but there's very little judgment I think I can give off of that clip.
I love this the giant catfish and this like crazy island alligator. All of the monster designs are really cool.
Yeah.
Great aesthetic.
Incredibly.
All right. Moving on from South of Midnight, Warcraft, War Within, coming soon. Looks cool.
We finally get to figure out what that big sword was stuck in the planet for.
Yeah, people are really into learning what that is about. So, all right, moving on to Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, which is the remake of Snake Eater, which is the best Metal Gear Solid game. At least in my opinion, and I believe also Brett's. This game's really good. The original is amazing, and I think this remake looks a lot more faithful than we thought it would be to begin with. I think they're actually using the original voice acting, which for most games might be a concern for a remake, but I think in the case of Metal Gear Solid, it's maybe a good sign of that they're actually staying faithful to the original. Especially considering that Kojima is no longer at Konami and has had a pretty bad separation from them. So yeah, I hope this is good. I'm glad that they're treating it with some amount of respect, given that Kojima is no longer there. Because there was a period where people were worried that Konami was just going to make like endless Metal Gear games that were terrible. But it seems like they're actually putting a lot of effort into this.
Which they did for one game.
Yeah. I was going to say, knowing Konami, it's good to see that this isn't just a very elaborate trailer for a pinball machine.
Yeah. All right. Moving on, Sea of Thieves season 13.
Always like
become a villain.
New season. Flintlock season.
Same combat, no gameplay.
Yeah.
Or something. Aha. Yes.
I've been playing the demo for this. It's pretty good.
Yeah, this is a cool, stylish trailer. I like the way that they cut this. I'm interested to play more of this game. I played a bit of the demo, and it was fun, but I didn't really see the unique hook or anything yet as to like what made this different enough from a regular Souls game to play it, but it was fun.
Little buddy.
So I'll go back to it and play it more when it comes out.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts on Flintlock?
Looks cool.
Great.
Looks cool.
I'm excited for it.
Age of Mythology Retold, and this I'm very excited for, actually, because Age of Empires 4 is super good. The 2 remaster that they did was great as well. So I'm really excited to see what Age of Mythology is like, because it's always great when you add in some magic powers to your RTS games.
Let's go.
I'm hoping it's not too micro-heavy, because I've never played Age of Mythology before, but
I would assume it's fairly similar to Empire.
So this is from the Age of Empires people?
Yes.
Right.
Well, at least the new developers of the series took over. Because the original developer, they're not even around anymore. Their last game was Halo Wars 1, and then they...
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. Moving on, Perfect Dark, and this is one of the more interesting ones, because I think everyone was really worried about Perfect Dark, and then this trailer showed up, and now everyone's really excited about Perfect Dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
look at that. That looks... very fun tone setting.
This looks really cool. But also not too similar to like classic Perfect Dark, which I guess it doesn't have to be. But my thing is like, is this an open world game? Is it more like a Hitman where it's very like open ended levels?
Knowing that this is Crystal Dynamics, who have worked with Eidos before, I am almost 100% on the train that this is going to be Deus Ex, basically.
Oh, so kind of like a immersive sim.
Yeah, immersive sim, large missions layout.
Okay.
That's what this feels like to me. I don't know, though. I would assume that that's sort of what this is going for. I do think it being in this, like, is presumably it's set in one city. I know very little about Perfect Dark because I've never played the original. If it's set in the same city, I assume that's the hub city, sort of like Deus Ex Mankind Divided had Prague as its hub, and it worked really well. So... I don't know. This seems really fun. It seems like there's a lot of cool tricks you can use to pull people to things by like using voice prints and maneuvering them around. There's parkour, which looks really solid. Great
the parkour
addition.
looks sick. The parkour looks really cool.
Yeah. great addition to a first-person spy game.
Oh yeah.
I'm just into stealth action, so giving me more games that have stealth action and new twists and whatnot is super exciting. And this looks very smooth. It looks like it runs great.
What my brain was constantly saying during this entire reveal was, it feels like if someone took Cyberpunk and took Dying Light and just kind of smushed them together.
Mhm.
That sounds sick.
That's a
to
good
me.
one. Yeah.
That's what it kind of reminded me of, and if that's the pitch, then I am in.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume this isn't
great.
really gonna have like narrative choices or anything, but I'm totally fine with that and just having a good like stealth mission time.
Yeah.
And there's also a few moments in here where they show some like takedowns and whatnot that look so cool.
They look
yeah.
really neat.
Really good. So really interested in this. I think it's looking really good and is a great showcase of this game. Moving on, Diablo IV Vessel of Hatred, which of course I am actively working on, so we're not really going to talk about this at all. Just want to mention that it's here. And this trailer is very gruesome.
And it goes hard.
Can we show off the arm bit?
I don't want to put it here because YouTube won't like it. There is some gruesome arm things in that trailer.
Oh, God.
All right, Fable. Curious on the takes on Fable, because this trailer has a tone to me that is, I think, hitting the Fable humor. I think they're getting it with this a little bit more than the first trailer did with Richard Ayoade just showing up.
Oh yeah, as the giant.
Yep. They're still doing that with like all these characters, but still very interesting presentation here. I'm curious how this actually will play.
Yeah. This is our third viewing of it in a showcase, and they still don't have really solid gameplay yet, and that's not good. I feel like third time's the charm. You can have one, maybe two CG trailers, and then you really need gameplay.
Well, it's clear. I think this trailer is in engine, and it shows a lot of like walking in engine and stuff, but it's just not.
But there's no UI. There's no, like, when I say gameplay, I want unedited with UI, like 10-minute gameplay demo or something like that. Like, really just more actual gameplay instead of this. Because I start to lose confidence, personally. I'll also say this. I do agree that I think the humor is at least in the same ballpark. The art style is not. And I'm wondering how people who are huge fans of Fable are going to take to a more photoreal art style versus the kind of more exaggerated, almost like fairy tale-esque art style that we got in the other games.
Yeah, right now it's kind of hitting me as a little bit Uncanny Valley, but I don't know if that's because they've just done a really good job at making human-looking characters, and my brain can't quite like comprehend that in a Fable game. But yeah, I'm getting some like weird Uncanny Valley stuff, and I think it's just the juxtaposition of these very human-looking characters in this fantasy like armor and whatnot. It almost makes me think of a Ren Fair. Not evil time, which is like, that's fun, but I don't know if it's exactly what they were going for. So
also, it's worth pointing out this is by the devs who made Forza, so very different. Right. Yeah, very different for them as well. Not saying that's a bad thing, but it is something to keep in mind. I think.
Okay, Fragpunk, I believe this is. Yeah.
Yep.
Looks interesting. This is another hero shooter thing.
Yeah, but another one.
The abilities here look.
This one actually showed a gameplay twist that I'm a little bit more into. Of like, you actually, when you have your loadout, you pick things that change how the game plays, and that's really interesting to me. I think that's a very cool idea. I'm just curious how it's going to actually come off.
I also think the whole kind of punk art style is either going to do it for you or it's really not going to do it for you.
Yeah,
I'll put it that way.
Oh, that's fun. They just add grass to the entire oh, cool.
Big head mode, which is really cute.
Like, this is almost reminding me a little bit of Splitgate, which I think is a good thing. I think that's where the
interesting.
This does seem very like just because of my general being against PvP stuff. This seems very cool conceptually, but I don't know if I could play it. I definitely watch it.
Seems a little more low stakes than other PvP stuff, just how goofy it is. Winterboro looks very cool.
I'm going to say this does look cool. I was really sad because I thought this was a mouse guard game for a second, and I freaked the fuck out. But it's not. But it looks a lot like Mouse Guard. If you haven't read it, it's a great graphic novel series. Go read it. It's great.
Yeah. I love the look of this game. I'm a little nervous that it might just play like Don't Starve or something and be very similar to that. But honestly, if it's a kind of cozy version of Don't Starve, I'm pretty into that. I love the look. That's most of what I can say based off of what they've shown here.
If you're into top-down, Don't Starve style survival games, I think that'd be right up your alley, probably.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to Mixtape, which is a sort of like Annapurna-produced teenage adventure game about a character whose mixtapes modify reality.
Oh, so it's another Life is Strange thing.
I mean, sort of, it's in that era, right? I think because Life is Strange exists, I'm a little bit more nervous about these games immediately whenever I hear people going for that, like, early 2000s or late 90s indie movie vibe, I think. But this looks fun. I think this showed really well. I think I'll just need to see like what else is here. I mean, great soundtrack. Very good soundtrack.
Look at that. Look at that.
And also doing the low frame rate animation thing. So,
which I think for this game, I think works better than what I would assume would be a fast-paced action game with the other one. So, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm curious what this is because for some reason they go from like mostly conceivable teenager situations to riding the back of a dinosaur in what looks like Doom, which I'm just curious. I want to know what's going on. So
look, sometimes a mixed shape just turns you into the Lisan Al Gaib.
Yep. Right. Microsoft Flight Sim 2024 got announced and shown, and yeah, it looks super impressive. I guess you can fly VIPs around in this one.
If that's something you want to do.
It's probably to give it a little bit more of like an objective and not just free flight. But yeah, all this looks very cool.
A little emergency response type stuff. Did they have that in other games? Is this
I don't think so. I don't think they did. They had emergency response vehicles you could fly, but I don't think they had actual mechanics for it.
That's a cool new thing. Oh, the water dumping for forest fires.
I'm really curious if all of this stuff is like actually playable, because that seems really fun to me. It's like actually going in and playing like, oh, I'm gonna go play a mission where I'm like dumping water as an aerial firefighter to fight a forest fire.
They all take place in California.
Look, it's a real danger here. Yeah, this looks fun. I think I'm into the flight simulator showcase here a little bit more than I was for the last iteration. All right, moving on. ESO had like a celebration thing because Gold Road released. I don't think anything new was announced here.
Yeah, we got our houses.
That was last week's episode. We played some ESO, ran around for a little bit. It was a fun time. Moving on, Life is Strange is getting a new game. This is by not the original Life is Strange developers, the ones that developed True Colors, which I think was really good. And I'm excited to see what they do with Max as a character, because this game is starring Max again. We're going back to her, and they're doing a more direct follow-up.
Is this assuming a specific ending to the last game?
I assume it has to be. Unless we see Chloe somewhere in this trailer.
She's wandering, so I think I know which ending it is.
They could do like a Telltale stuff where they kind of ask you, maybe it's like you port your save over, or they ask you the decisions that you made in the previous game.
Well, that'd turn into two completely different games.
That's, I mean...
Actually, no, it doesn't. She could travel either way. Never mind.
Most series that have branching storylines tend to do that with some, changes for here and there.
Yeah. I don't know. This looks interesting to me. I like the idea that Max has learned how to like go into a parallel version of reality a little bit more reliably and is trying to solve a murder. I wonder how it's going to go wrong because that's
going to cause another giant storm at the end.
Yeah.
I'm interested. That seems pretty wrong to me. 2 moons?
Yeah, the 2 moons is concerning. So it's clear that there's going to be some big consequences in this game. I think that Deck 9 did a really good job with True Colors, so I hope they follow it up with this and give us some interesting
exposure.
Stuff.
Fun title.
All right, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. This had a really good showing. Again, a very long showing. It was a long cutscene, basically, and I think they're nailing the indie vibes.
They're nailing the indie vibes in the cutscene for sure. I would have liked to have seen a bit more gameplay this time, maybe with UI. Now that we've gotten gameplay without UI, I'm assuming their goal here was to, they had their indie like gameplay reveal, and then this is to be like, hey, we're getting the vibe right. That was a bit of the gameplay.
Yeah.
Here's the vibe. But I think at this point, I would really like a gameplay showcase with full UI and just straight up like 10-15 minute demo or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I do like to see a little bit more of the world hopping though. It's fun to see completely different environments.
Yeah, that is their Great Circle gimmick is a good way to force that into the story a little bit.
Yep.
I do think this looks fun and looks really interesting, and I'm interested in the story, even if the gameplay isn't perfect. But I mean, Wolfenstein devs, so they know how to make a good first-person shooter.
They do.
Just hope they.
Even though if you rewind a little bit, I find it very fascinating that it looks like you can't really aim down sights on your gun. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah, I saw that.
It looked like you can't do full ADS, which I find kind of strange. I don't know why that isn't a thing. But
yeah, maybe your other hand is the whip or something, so you always have the ability to have one.
So whatever.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, but yeah.
Wait, what? They did the
boulder.
They did the boulder.
They did the boulder, Alex. Why is that surprising to you?
I didn't think that was, part of the timeline where he was.
Also, did he beat that guy with a banjo? Is that what I saw?
I think he beat someone up with a banjo.
That's great. That's
Love
great.
It.
Hey, if we could have like environmental takedowns, love that in the game too.
Oh, they even have the same shot and everything. Oh, that's great.
Very good.
Cool.
Then we saw Mecha Break again. Still confused as to what this actually is. And I think the answer is actually out there, and I'm just, at this point I'm along for the ride and want to see what it actually is myself. Then we saw Wu Chang Fallen Feathers, which is another sort of like Asian flair, maybe Souls-like.
Need I say it again?
Action game.
Asian-inspired melee action games.
Eating good.
They are the rage this year.
Yeah, this one's got really good monster design. I love this like weird witchery monster.
It is.
Yeah, I remember when I first saw this, I was like, this feels kind of Witcher.
Oh my god,
to me.
That is
this reminded me a lot of I think the Striga trailer that The Witcher 3 ran right around.
Yeah.
Was really good.
In the barn.
Yeah, I think this reminded me a lot of that.
This is very reminiscent of it, yeah.
Combat looks great. They actually showed a lot of it. There's like a big theme of the monster hunters are fighting monsters that they themselves will eventually become because they're using monstrous powers to fight them that turn them into a monster the more they use them. Just cool. Fun concept.
Mm-hmm.
Really interested where this is going to go. All right, Avowed. I want to talk a little bit about Avowed because we also got a 20-minute gameplay showcase, and I want to say that it showed much better this time. All of us were a little bit. I don't think any of us were negative on it, but we're not quite as hyped just because a lot of the combat stuff didn't come across super great in the last trailer. There wasn't a lot of it. Everything they're showing here I'm into, especially the stuff like you burn open a vine wall with a fire spell and get to explore it. Just things like that seem really fun.
Big fan of logic.
And the way that their combat system works, that they talked about this in an interview
Choose your side.
done after, is that the more you level up in combat and like upgrade your gear and stuff, your animations and like visual effects get stronger.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Like, that's why it looked a little bit less impacty the first time, is when you're low level, it doesn't hit as hard, and so you don't have quite as many effects. And then they like leveled up and showed what it looks like with your full gear, and you're getting like the comic blood slashes and stuff when you're fighting.
Which is a very really impressive.
Very excited now.
It's a very cool concept, and I'm really excited to see how it works in game. Very gutsy to have your combat not feel very good in the first few hours of your video.
It's probably not going to feel worse than Skyrim to begin with. So.
Yeah, probably not. And we've been playing that game for 10 years.
Yep, playing and replaying. So next was Atomfall.
Pretty. What is this?
Which looks really interesting. I don't think we know a lot about this game yet, but first person. Looks like atomic adventure.
They said like I believe the description was like open world action adventure with like some survival elements.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting like a Stalker and that type of game vibe, but maybe a little bit less hardcore. That's sort of what it seems like they're going for, and I'm into it. I love the weird mech things.
I love retro futurism, and this has kind of a little bit of that with these robot designs.
Yep. All right, Assassin's Creed Shadows. We're going to talk about more in just a moment when we go over the Ubisoft show. Stalker 2: Heart of Chernobyl. This looks great. I'm really glad they were able to finish this game, being that the studio is Ukrainian, and it's obviously it's not a great situation over there right now after the Russian invasion. So I'm glad to see that they're back in a safe location and able to continue developing and finish this game out, because it looks really good. The Stalker games have a huge cult following, and recently were added back to consoles to play, because they were formerly PC only. So I've been giving Stalker 1 a little run through, and it's fun. It's a great game, and I'm very excited for 2. All right. After that, the last announcement of the day, aside from the Digital Series X, is that Gears of War is getting a prequel game called E-Day. And I'm really interested in this, because Gears of War is kind of a series that I've sort of missed out on, and so this seems like a good way to kind of jump in. And
I have played one Gears of War game, and it was 5, and I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've been meaning to play 4 and 5, but I figured I would try to play 1 through 3 first. And unfortunately, only 1 is available to play on PC. 2 and 3 are locked to Xboxes, so I would love to play those at some point. But thankfully, prequel means I still have some time to catch up before the next one, hopefully. But yeah, this looks very good. I'm into everything that is being shown here. All right.
They even played the Mad World song, which they had used for Gears of War 2, I think. They used in their like marketing. So that's kind of cute.
Looks really cool. Xbox Showcase overall, super strong. Probably
very good.
A better show than Summer Game Fest, but just because there was a lot of highlights. A lot of.
I would say it was better than the Sony Showcase as well.
All right. Let's hop into the Ubisoft Forward.
Keep talking. I'm going to get some water, though.
Yep. All right. Starting out is Star Wars Outlaws.
And we have a musical performance after a lack of them for such a good long time.
Ubisoft always does their thing. And I got to say, I am legitimately disappointed that we did not get a Just Dance performance at this Ubisoft Forward. I mean, come on.
I was about to say the same thing.
Where's my Just Dancers?
That's what happens when you leave, Wyatt.
I'm worried that they weren't here. Are they okay?
Where are the Just Dancers?
Hopefully they're still dancing.
Are they all right?
Hopefully
I recently played Just Dance again. It's a fun series. It's a fun set of games. And honestly, I think the business model that they have going right now of like you can do the subscription thing for basically like a rental to play it for a couple hours is really interesting, and probably pretty good for most people, because I don't know most people play Just Dance more than once a month. So it's probably less money than buying the game. Yeah, just an interesting model. Star Wars Outlaws looking really good. I think this is a very solid showcase.
I know this is an Ubisoft game, which means everyone is on high alert, and I understand why. That's the reputation that they've built up over the years. However, I have really liked, outside of their business model, which I think everyone can agree is a bit shit, but I really like almost everything that I've seen so far. My only worry, I'm not really worried about the gameplay. It looks fun. My worry is the story and the writing. Because if there's one thing that Ubisoft, no matter what studio it is, just can't do, is good storytelling. They just can't do it. I don't know what it is.
And there's not to say like it's weird because they do have really really good like set piece moments and things like that, and they're really good at telling like moment to moment stories. But not
there's
good
even in the
gotta say, not a fan of the not a fan of the space flight. That's not going well.
that might just be the I think that's the motion sickness speaking, Alex.
That's exactly.
Let me move it off of space flight for you, so it's not still on that.
And what's kind of frustrating is that they always, especially with like Far Cry, they always have interesting ideas, but they can never quite hit the landing on any of them. And so I just hope they don't do anything too overly complicated. They just have a good, solid kind of scoundrel Star Wars story. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking for anything too insane.
Yeah.
I just want something that's functional to pretty good.
At the same time, I'm kind of glad they haven't shown a ton of story related stuff, because hopefully that means you can go in pretty blind. And all the gameplay looks really fun. The cantina looks great.
It's got the Star Wars atmosphere down, I'd say.
For sure.
They've nailed that quite a bit. I love that you get to use your little alien pal for things like picking up weapons and distracting guards. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I am interested. I thought I saw somewhere, I could be wrong, I thought I saw like level numbers above enemies' heads. So I'm wondering what kind of stupid Ubisoft level gating crap they're going to do. I was
going to say, it's an Ubisoft game, of course you did.
If they do it at all, which I would be very disappointed if they did, because I feel like this game doesn't really need that.
You totally don't need that for this game.
It's so... Every time they do it, it's the most unnecessary, obnoxious crap. And I hate it. I'm also interested to see if they have any kind of loot, because they also tend to infest their game with like loaded loot systems. I mean, I like what it seems like they're doing, which is kind of fun, where you have your main blaster with a couple of different like modes, and then you briefly pick up enemy heavy weapons for a bit, and then you drop them and move on, which is very Star Warsy.
So love the thermal visor view.
If there is loot, it doesn't look like it's cosmetic, because she's been in the same jacket the entire time, at least to my...
She has different outfits for different planets.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of fun. They also have that binocular thing a lot, but I think it works well in this game. And I think I was saying this to Ryan when we were watching this live, but a lot of Ubisoft's mechanics and a lot of the things and systems and stuff that they put in their games aren't bad on their own. They just put it in every single game, regardless of whether it actually makes sense or not. And so when you see the same
they haven't
mechanics,
really innovated on anything.
Well, that's the thing, is that they do, but they use it for every game they make, and it's so pointless. And it always ends up in games where it doesn't need to be. Like, this game doesn't need level gated enemies. It doesn't need a loot system. It doesn't need any of that. I just hope that they don't shove that stuff in here. It's my only other worry other than the rain.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm hopeful for this, because I think a lot of it looks very fun. And even... I think the honest thing with a lot of this game is that people will be okay with this if it's a mediocre open world game, as long as it gets the Star Wars stuff right. And it seems like it is. So I hope it's better than mediocre. And I think a lot of this has looked pretty solid and fun. So I'm hoping they hit that goal of being a little bit more focused and actually telling a good story.
I will say, calling this the first open world Star Wars game is the biggest stretch imaginable.
I would
Because
say
Jedi Survivor,
blatantly untrue.
Jedi Survivor
kinda
is an
rude to
open
me.
world game. It is
Jedi Survivor
absolutely
is
an open
Star
world
Wars
game.
Online. All the MMO games totally are. They're
Yep.
extremely strange
Yeah.
thing to try to say.
But no, I'm actually, the more I look at gameplay of this, I'm actually really excited. I really, really want to play this game.
Yeah, they just showed 3 different outfits too immediately, so I'm sure there
Oh.
are multiple. Those last couple
Um,
of shots. But yeah.
yeah, I'm super pumped actually. I especially because there's no Jedi at all. It's just Star Wars seedy underbelly backwater scoundrel. So that's what I've been asking for so long.
What are you gonna do if halfway through the game they give you a lightsaber and make you play as Jedi?
Oh no.
I
No.
I will throw my controller. I will guarantee you, if they shove a lightsaber in her hands halfway through the game, I'm gonna throw my controller. I'm so sick of Jedi shit. I can't even begin to explain it.
All right. Well, that's Star Wars Outlaws. I think overall pretty positive feelings on this. This is definitely the highlight of the showcase. Moving on, X Defiant came out very recently.
I've
The
played
first season
this.
starting soon. Yeah, what'd you
I've
think?
played this. At first I thought it was boringly mediocre, but the more I played it, the more it kind of grew on me. I still don't think it's perfect or amazing or anything, but it's damn solid. And I actually enjoy it a fair bit. I don't know how long it's going to stay installed on my PC, but for the time being, I'm actually having some fun.
Yeah,
Not
it feels
gonna
like it
lie.
didn't get a
What
lot
is
of advertising or hype recently.
No,
what
but
is
it got
this?
a
This
pretty.
feels like a Rainbow Six Siege kind of shooter.
So
Is that
this is specifically, and this may not mean anything to you, Alex, and that's fine. This is specifically Call of Duty Black Ops 4 if it was made by Ubisoft. Which is I know sounds very random, but that was a very weird Call of Duty entry. It's Call of Duty with hero shooter stuff, or some very light hero shooter stuff.
Yeah, and if I
And it's
remember
pretty
correctly, it
fun.
was pretty well received at the time. So
Yeah, I think at first it wasn't because they had labeled it as a Tom Clancy thing.
yeah,
And people were very pissed off because it's very clearly not a Tom Clancy thing. And then they kind of pivoted and just made it about, oh, here's DedSec from Watch Dogs, and this is the guys from Ghost Recon. This is the guys from Splinter Cell and the Division. So it's kind of like a weird Ubisoft crossover thing. Is the best way to describe it.
yeah. All right. Well, Skull and Bones exists. Moving
Yep.
on.
For now, it exists for now.
For the moment, Prince of Persia: Lost Crown is getting a expansion DLC, the story
Yeah.
DLC, as well as an update that launched the day that this presentation happened, so it's already out, with a couple
Nice.
of challenge modes and some other fun stuff.
This game kicks so much ass.
Really good, great Switch port too. If
and
you
and
want to
nobody bought it. And nobody bought it. It did not sell very well, and that makes me very sad because this is the best Ubisoft game we've gotten in a long time, man.
Yeah,
This
super
is like
solid.
this is some top tier stuff going on. I love this game.
Yep. Rogue Prince of Persia, currently in early access by some of the Dead Cells developers, but weirdly not the original Dead Cells developers, but the developers who took over Dead Cells development of all the DLCs when the original devs moved on to a different project. So, still very high pedigree, but weird little mix up there. This game is very well received so far. I'm probably going to wait to jump in until it's closer to full release because it's in early access currently, but I'm excited to try it.
I'm going to say this, and I mean this in a good way. I don't mean this as an insult. This looks like a beautifully made Flash game. It reminds me of that Flash game aesthetic that you'd find on like Armor games or Addicted games or whatever back in the day.
I see what you mean.
I
mean that as a compliment
very
too.
Smooth. Yes, yeah, I mean that as a compliment. It looks great.
All right. Next, they did a sneaky little teaser saying that the Sands of Time remake is now delayed into 2026.
Yeah, this was weird. This was so weird. They could have just been. They didn't need this whole expensive-looking CG thing. They could have just said, "Yeah, it's still in development, coming out next year. Moving on."
But it's not next year, Wyatt. It's 2 years.
Sorry. Moving on.
Yeah, make the remake good, but man, confusing what is going on with that. Rocksmith still going. Cool system if you want to learn guitar and have some songs to play and stuff. Frontiers of Pandora is getting a like competition themed DLC. Seems kind of cool.
Also a pretty good game. I would say a little bit.
I would actually
tier.
push it to say solidly very good.
Yeah, I think it's a noticeable step above Ubisoft open world games that we've been getting recently.
It actually has some very solid stealth action in it, and I'm always on the lookout for good stealth action games.
And it also just has really interesting like open world stuff. The idea of like picking plants at different times of day kind of brings different yields, and the direction of how you pick plants kind of dictates the quality of the material that you're picking and stuff. Really interesting stuff. I don't know.
Cool game.
I like
it. Crew Motorfest, I forgot this game was out, to be honest.
Yep.
It came out very quickly after it was announced and is getting a new season. I think the bigger announcement for me is Anno 117 Pax Romana being a Roman Anno game, which I'm very into. Anno 1800 is the latest release before this and is a phenomenal city builder. I would probably call it the best city builder on the market. And this seems like if they can follow that up in a Roman setting, because the gameplay could obviously be very different, being that 1800 is set in Age of Sail and everything's around like trade routes and maximizing like long distance, multiple supply chains and stuff. This feels like a very different setting where you're probably working with more landmass and less island nation type stuff. So, yeah, I'm super into it. Hopefully it's very cool. Then they showed Monopoly and For Honor. And Battle Core, which I don't know why we didn't know existed because it's apparently out and looks pretty cool. I think Ubisoft just needs to do better at advertising some of this stuff because this looks great.
This looks very, very unique for sure. It's
like
Beyblade if they never transformed.
Then we got the musical performance.
Another one.
Yep. Both in the Ubisoft show, where we got more of an Assassin's Creed Shadows look. And they talked about they're doing a new seasonal, like, full year cycle thing for the environment. It's very cool.
You said seasonal, and that gave me a heart attack.
No, like an actual seasons. Like, the seasons change and move on. So for people that aren't in the loop, this is a game with there's two protagonists. They did confirm in this trailer that you get to like pick per mission who you're playing.
Oh, that's fun.
Yes, which I love. I'm really glad they did that.
Do we think there's going to be any replayability possibilities with that?
I would actually say I think there will be because it seems like Yasuke, who is the male character, very very famous, black samurai, very very well known character. And super interesting.
That's a fun weapon on his back.
Oh yeah, he's got the big club.
I love a big spiked bat.
But yeah, Yasuke, fascinating character, and I say character, he was a real person. Absolutely fascinating to read about. Retainer to Nobunaga Oda, which is just fascinating. Super cool.
Come on, interact with the dog.
Now, I believe, is the name of the female protagonist, who is
Now.
I think so. I could be wrong.
It was like Noe
or something.
I don't remember. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, I just don't remember because I already knew who Yasuke was, so it's easier to remember who he is compared to her. She's an original character. But both of them look really cool. Yasuke is like the upfront fighter and has lots of like heavy hitting melee moves. Seems like he's sort of the hero of the people vibe for the game. Well known, liked by the people around him. And yeah,
my cabbages.
I had that playing in my head too. My peaches.
Yeah, I think that his gameplay looks very fun.
I like that they have the kind of counter system is back like it is in other melee action games. But I like how you have to counter multiple times, which is in other action games. But I feel like it's new to this series and it makes combat feel a bit more involved, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like hit reactions are a little bit better than Valhalla too. So.
Yeah. My hope is that some of what they did in Mirage kind of carries over, in that I really liked in Mirage how you had to climb in specific places. The you really had to think about your parkour and your movement a lot more, which is kind of like older Assassin's Creed games.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope they have they clearly define these two characters' roles. Like, part of me is like, maybe don't even make this guy be able to climb at all. Or if he can climb, make him climb really slow.
I was gonna say with the heavy armor, I don't think he can.
Like, I don't know, and then make whatever her name is, I forget. Make her melee combat way more difficult. Maybe she's super squishy or something.
Like, she has to sneak kill enemies.
Like, really, really define these two characters' roles, and I think that will help a lot, because you don't want them to feel very like superfluous.
I was gonna say also, like, I don't think there's multiplayer like in this feature at all. But how cool would it be to be able to, go at the same mission, like one person playing as one character, the other as the other, so you can create a big upfront distraction.
Yeah, that'd be
as
cool.
The samurai and sneak in through the back.
I don't think they've implied that that's anywhere, but
that looks so
love
cool.
the like desaturation kills and stuff. Really cool like
so
stylization here. They just showed the name. I think it's a Noe. And yeah, there's the moments where you get to like choose your characters. Now,
no,
it was now. Okay.
Naue? Was it Naue?
You know, if I use my knowledge of Japanese, I think it would be pronounced Naue, which seems right. But because there's no audio on, I don't know.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what they actually went with. But yeah, I love the dynamic of actually choosing characters. I think it's a much better use of the two protagonist gameplay mechanism here, whereas before it's usually just been like a choose your gender or whatever character you want to represent. I think it's more fun to have them both be actual fleshed out characters that you get to play as and alternate between.
Which is something that they've done before. They did with Syndicate, although the differences between the brother and the sister weren't super well defined. They had some very minor ability changes, but that's it.
Yeah, whereas here it definitely seems like Naue is much more of a stealth person compared to Yasuke.
Love the prone in the grass. It gives me. It reminds me of like Last of Us 2, which had a lot of really fun stealth mechanics.
Just all the like shinobi tools that she uses look very fun.
Mm-hmm.
And as always, excellent looking assassination animations. The like rooftop climbing. And there's a moment very much at the end here where she pulls out one of my favorite like Japan weapons. Actually, I think I skipped right past it. This was great too. Of like you have the breathing pipe from
fun.
It just looks super fun. And yeah, love these like
that is
stealth
a fun
kills. Looks so good. But yeah, she has a Kusarigama, which is super cool weapon.
So is it like a spike on a chain or something?
Yeah, it's a sickle and chain.
That's sick.
You like swing the weighted ball
as
like a mace, basically. Yeah, she looks super fun to play too. Super into everything they showed here. I think this has kind of alleviated a lot of my fears, given that they announced Assassin's Creed, then Red, now Shadows, by saying it was part of this weird Assassin's Creed Infinity project or whatever, in like a live service thing, which it seems like they've completely just forgotten about at this point. Like it doesn't seem like that's actually a case anymore.
Thank God.
It was truly like a bizarre time when they were saying that. And we'll see if there's any like relics of that here, because I think if anything's gonna kill the game, that's gonna be it, is if they try to shoehorn in that live service stuff that everyone reacted very poorly to into the game. So otherwise, this looks very solid.
They've also talked about they're going to have different seasons throughout that will like drastically change the environment, as well as like heavy weather effects that will also do something similar, kind of change the kind of the parameters of your stealth or something like that, which I think is a really interesting
And kind of a
idea.
good way to separate yourself from Ghost of Tsushima a little bit, because I think that's the constant comparison that's going to be given.
I find it very ironic that this game is called Assassin's Creed Shadows when the giant shadow looming over this entire game is Ghost of Tsushima. I'm kind of shocked that we've gone
and the
this long
looming
without talking
probably
about it.
sequel coming out, I would assume next year or the year after. Like,
oh wow.
Oh God, yeah, or at least announced next year or something like that.
yeah,
It's gonna be tough because again, I'm gonna say this. Tsushima has a lot of really positive qualities. One of them was the story was pretty damn good, and again, Ubisoft's storytelling is just terrible. So that's the other thing. I mean, if they can deliver in the gameplay department, that's going to be fine for most people. But if they really want to kind of uh, be up there with Ghost of Tsushima, they really need to nail the story as well, which I just don't. I don't trust them to do that.
Yeah.
I really don't.
All right. Well, that said, we've reached the end of all of our presentations. Ubisoft Forward, pretty good. Obviously, less games to go over here, but I think their two headliners of Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Shadows both showed really well. So yeah, I'm excited to see what these come out like and how they're gonna play when I get my hands on them. Any final thoughts on the Ubisoft show?
Yeah, I would say started strong, ended strong. The middle was it was okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for the actual Summer Game Fest coverage then. I think overall, pretty positive summer compared to the sort of drip feed of stuff that we've been worried about. I think there's actually a lot of really cool stuff that got shown off here. And a lot of the sort of doom and gloom from earlier this year is hopefully starting to go away and break out into more positive games. So I'm just really tired about hearing about layoffs. I think it's a sucky situation for the industry.
Don't jinx
it.
Alex.
Please don't jinx it.
So, yeah, I hope we're moving past that. I honestly, who knows? Games industry is super volatile, but it's good to see that there's lots of cool games coming this year. I think we're all very excited for those. All right.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on any of the games that people saw? Well, I'll ask, what was everyone's highlight? What's your like number one thing you're looking forward to?
It's tough. Genuinely. I don't know. I'm really excited for Outlaws. Genuinely.
Yeah.
I think it's been showing really, really well. Other than some worries about the story and the typical Ubisoft nonsense, I think it's looking pretty good so far.
I'm a big Expedition 33 person. I think Expedition 33 is one of the most impressive single dropping a completely unknown IP out of nowhere and just being extremely impressive immediately. So,
yeah,
super into Expedition 33. Alex, any standout for you? Something you're really looking forward to playing this year or next year?
I think I would have to say, seeing how much the combat has improved, or at least look wise for Avowed, that has my confidence reassured. Yeah,
absolutely looking forward to that as well. So, I think a great year for games, shaping up to be a good follow up to last year's insane top 10 all time year for video games. So
no one expected it to be as good, but I'm glad it's at least solid. At the very least.
Yeah. Glad to have all of that. So now it's shoutouts time. Who's ready to go? Who's got something good to happen?
So this is not going to be coming out the same day that we're recording, but the day that we're recording. Oh, can't speak. Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, happy Father's Day.
None of us are fathers. You should just put that out there. Completely
not that we know of, at least.
No.
All right.
My dad doesn't watch the show, but hi.
Okay, Wyatt.
I'm gonna throw another E3 season showcase out there and sum it up briefly. Devolver Direct 2024 was actually a lot of fun. I feel like in past years, they try and do very humorous showcases, and they try a little bit too hard, I think is the best way to describe a lot of them. But this one was weird. It was very uncomfortable, but it was very reserved, and I really liked it. It was like an indie psychological horror short story, like short film, with just random game announcements in there, and it was really interesting. They had some cool looking stuff. They had like a top down action game that was inspired by Hong Kong like cop movies and stuff, which are pretty cool. They announced co-op for Cult of the Lamb, which is pretty sweet. Talos Principle DLC, a boomer shooter called Angerfoot, where you have different equipable shoes that do different things.
That one looks fun.
Possessors, which is a new game by Heart Machine. So I guess they're working on Hyper Light Breaker and this at the same time, I guess, which is this really beautiful looking 2D action game. Really solid showcase, and I think it's probably some of the best humor, even if it's really, really dark humor, that they've had in a good while.
All right. Now, I'm afraid I must blow your showcase out of the water with something pretty insane that I've had sitting right over here.
Oh, what have you done?
So, this insane pile of things is something called Eye of Judgment. And I don't know if anyone has ever heard of this game before.
No.
For context, I recently set up a PS3. And have been sort of acquiring some things that I missed out on in my PS3 era. One of which is this game, Eye of Judgment. Now, for those who don't know, Eye of Judgment is a card game with real cards. I have a booster pack right here of Eye of Judgment cards made by Wizards of the Coast. There's a little starter deck right here. And the way that you play this is you have a mat you lay on the floor, and then you use this insane tower and attach it to your PS3. And there's a PlayStation Eye socketed in here that pops out. And you point it at the cards on the battle mat, and it does basically the Yu-Gi-Oh thing with your cards. And has them physically battling. One of the most insane game things I ever learned about. And because it was basically a failure, it's very cheap to acquire.
And can I just say, 7th generation of consoles was a wild fucking time.
Absolutely insane time. And I'm sure you could probably, I don't know how easy this would be to do, but I assume you could actually just print these cards on something because it's all QR code based and be able to play this reasonably, because the cards are like this. You have an actual deck of them. They've got cool art and just a lot of dots and lines on it, so the game knows what's going on. And every time you play one of them, and I find it hilarious. This is a very funny system, and I'm excited to try this out at some point as soon as I get it actually hooked up. But yeah, if you've got a PS3 lying around and a spare about $30, it's relatively easy to find in full sets. At least currently, I think it goes in and out of availability in certain areas just because it wasn't hugely successful. So there's a lot of just packages of these sitting around with all of the stuff. So it's cool to have that around. And from what I know, it was actually a pretty well-designed card game. It just didn't do gangbusters because it involved buying a crazy PlayStation Eye gimmick to play. So yeah, pretty wild. On that note, podcasts Tuesdays. Catch us live on Twitch, and find us recorded on YouTube, the podcast platform of your choice, and beyond. I don't know where that is, but you can find it.
Yeah.
Really rocking out to this outro this time.